Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
It's a blessing to be in the position, and we're just thankful to be here. We're thankful to have the opportunity to go out there and play in front of the 12 man.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies. It's going to be a group effort today. Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. And no OB today, no co-host for the Go Hour, so it's going to be you and me talking about all things A&M sports, SEC football, you name it. And the topic today that I really want some help on, and I've created a list for all of you, is who are the best players that A&M is going to face this year. And I kind of did it chronologically on who A&M is going to face them in the season, right? And I just picked some of the best players from each team. I'd love to get your thoughts on that as well at 979-693-1150. If you call that number, we'll pick it up on the Buppy's Catering hotline. You can text that number as well. This list is, you know, some of these names are going to develop as the year moves on, right? We'll certainly see a certain name or two that like, oh, okay, this guy's turned into something. And some other names you're going to, you know, you've heard before, you expect to hear from. But we'll start things off with my first one, Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. If you guys remember, he was the backbreaker in that Notre Dame A&M game to start the season last year. He had that 21-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter with just under 2 minutes left that put Notre Dame up at that point 20-13 in that game against A&M. 14 carries, 91 yards, 6.5 yards per carry. In that game as well, 4 runs of more than 10 yards. So that just kind of tells you the kind of player he was. And in the playoff game against Indiana, he also had like a 98-yard touchdown run. The guy can do it all. And this year, their offensive coordinator, Mike Denbrook, is trying to experiment with putting him at times as a slot receiver. Jeremiah Love is absolutely going to be one of the best players that Texas A&M plays this year, if not the best player. I didn't rank this list, and by the way, I'm at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone for the first few minutes. I didn't rank it like who's the best, who's the second best. I just kind of went through each team. But he's not the only one. Drake Bowen, the linebacker for Notre Dame, he's going to step up because Jack Kaiser has moved on, and he's now going to be the leader of that defense. Against A&M, he wasn't fantastic. He's going to start this year for the first time. But he actually was on the year. Looks like he had a career high of 4 tackles, 3 solo, and 1 assisted. So it just tells you a little bit about him. Against that was in the A&M game. Against Ohio State, 8 tackles, 7 solo, 1 assisted. So a couple of the big players that we've heard of. One that we haven't heard of, or we have just not with Notre Dame, is Malachi Fields. 6'4", 220 pounds. He's a Virginia transfer, and he's big. He can catch. He had, 1,700 snaps in 2024, 19 explosive plays, 14 contested catches. The guy's fantastic, right? So I've already named 3 players on the Notre Dame football team that I think we have to really be aware of. And a couple of these guys might be the best players A&M faces all year long. We'll get through the list because, Anthony Hill at Texas and some of the others that will pop up. But just some names for you guys to consider. Leonard Moore, you've heard his name quite a bit. He had a fantastic freshman year. And he recorded, 2 picks, 13 pass breakups. He was fantastic. In the A&M game, he only had 1 tackle. Best game of the season against Georgia, 5 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. So those are a few of the names from the Notre Dame perspective that A&M is going to face. I look at this list, and I think the game plan is from an offensive perspective, or from an A&M's defense to stop their offense. It all starts with Jeremiah Love. Do not let him be Devon Achane, right? Don't let him beat you multiple ways. Again, he's going to be playing a little bit in the slot. He's going to be running the ball quite a bit. Drake Bowen, he's getting a lot of props. Malachi Fields, Leonard Moore, names that you've heard before. Moving on to Auburn. To me, it's the two wide receivers. Cam Coleman, who was fantastic against Texas A&M. 7 catches, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns in that overtime win. A guy that was, at one time thought he was going to go to A&M. He's obviously gets top billing when we go through this list because of what he did against them and what I think he'll be able to do in the next year. But the other one is the Georgia Tech transfer, Eric Singleton, who hopes to team up with Cam Coleman in a way that, who are you going to double there, right? Who are you going to be able to double? Last year, 56 receptions, 754 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 131 rushing yards on design touches. He is going to be a very dangerous threat for potentially the best wide receiver room that A&M is going to face next season. Another team, Florida Gators. Now, you've got to put DJ Lagway on that list, right? Not that he was great against A&M, because he was not great against A&M, but he had a fantastic November for them. Lagway against A&M, 6 of 13, 54 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His best game, though, came against Samford, and in that game, he threw 456 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's fantastic, right? Some people have him as a Heisman contender. I don't see that, just because I don't think Florida is going to be as good as people are touting them to be. I think they're going to be good, but with that schedule, and I still think they lost some players, I don't see him making a Heisman campaign. Jaden Ball, the running back, he's fantastic. 2 kickoffs for 27 yards against Texas A&M. Rushed 1 time for 5 yards. Against Kentucky, 22 carries, 106 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I hope that's not a typo. 5 touchdowns. He's great. The Gators went 3-0 in games where both Ball and DJ Lagway started together. They're going to start together against Texas A&M. Just another one of the names for you all to think about. And Florida gets a lot of props on their defense, especially their defensive line. They're good on their O-line and their defensive line. Caleb Banks, their 6'6" senior defensive tackle. He's a Louisville transfer who established himself as one of the best interior pass rushers the last couple of years. And he saved his biggest games with 3.5 sacks against Ole Miss, 4.5 tackles for loss. Guy is fantastic. I think I've used that word too many times already. But he popped up on the film for the Gators. He popped up on the film when he was with Louisville. He is going to be somebody that you have to absolutely think about. I had a hard time finding the best player on Arkansas. You can say Taylor Green. Taylor Green's really good. Xavier Sori is getting a lot of the props online. Started 13 games for them, 99 tackles, had 9.5 tackles for a loss, had 2 sacks, a pick, a pass breakup, 3 quarterback hurries. He's somebody that we'll have to consider. He had 7 tackles against A&M, and his best game came against Oklahoma State in the bowl game, 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. LSU. I think this is one that a roster we know pretty well. And Garrett Nussmeier, we saw the good and the bad from Garrett Nussmeier in the first half. And we're going to talk to Matt Moscona in the 10 o'clock hour to get a little bit more insider information on LSU and Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly. But he is a name that you hear as one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the SEC. And by the way, when you see these rankings of quarterbacks in the SEC, I think it is very easy to say, why is he? He did this, and he's not great against this. But I think the SEC quarterback race is so up for grabs that he's the most polished resume. He and Lenore Sellers, and Lenore's will pop up on this list later. But he threw for 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns. He can fit those tight passes in the windows, into tight windows, I should say. He's great. And elite arm, great field vision. But when he does hear footsteps is where he struggles. Just ask him about the second half against Texas A&M. Another name is Aaron Anderson. 3 receptions, 126 yards, and a touchdown against A&M. His best game was probably that game, unless you want to consider the game against Florida, 7 catches, 72 yards. So he's a name that 21 explosive receptions of 20-plus yards. He also thrives catching the ball in traffic. So a name that A&M knows, a name that SEC coaches absolutely know. The other one is Harold Perkins, who did not play against A&M, but we know his story all too well. Could have gone to A&M, should have gone to A&M, burned their jersey when he decided to flip to LSU, and got hurt last season. He was their best player a couple years ago as a freshman. Didn't have a great year the second year, and now he gets an opportunity to show what he can do. 6'2", 225 pounds, and he should be in the NFL, but he's not because he had an injury, and he was certainly on his way. All right, moving on to Missouri. Yes, even Missouri has a great. I'm not high on Missouri. Some people are. Some people really like their running back who's not been. He's not eligible just yet, and I don't know if he will be. But Kevin Coleman, who was at Mississippi State, was just a dynamic playmaker. Against A&M, 8 catches, 89 yards. Against Ole Miss, 6 catches, 118 yards and a touchdown pass. He and Pribula are going to be the big transfer for Missouri, and expect him to have a very, very nice year. He has to replace a couple solid players, though, Theo Weiss and Luther Burden. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops chemistry with that offense and how Drink uses him. South Carolina. All right, South Carolina, Dylan Stewart, we all know about his games. He is so good. Against A&M, 2 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and a sack. And against Old Dominion, 4 tackles, a tackle and a half for loss, and a sack and a half, 2 forced fumbles. Dude's great. And he is going to be the focus of that defense. Remember, South Carolina lost a lot, and I don't know if they replenished a lot, but that guy, if you didn't pay attention to him his freshman campaign, you missed out. He was a finalist for the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year Award, 6.5 sacks, ranked 3rd among all freshmen in college football. Then the name I gave you earlier, Lenoris Sellers. Okay, we know how good Lenoris is. He was the reason. He's the reason A&M lost that game. I know that Le'Veon Moss got injured, and that certainly hurt the offense quite a bit. But Lenoris Sellers was slippery, could not get sacked. I know A&M helped him there, but he was great. He threw the ball deep. He was able to elude the pressure. He was fantastic, and some people have him as a dark horse candidate for the Heisman Trophy. I don't see that as the case. I am high on him as a playmaker. I am not as high on him as most of the country. As for the University of Texas, Anthony Hill, a name that I brought up earlier, he is another guy that could have been an Aggie, and he's fantastic. Best game came against Kentucky, 11 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. Colin Simmons, again, that defense is just, they're still loaded even though they have to replace a lot. Against A&M, 5 tackles, and his best game came against Mississippi State, 7 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. And I guess you got to put Arch Manning on this list. I think Arch is the quarterback of a top 5 team. He's going to get a lot of attention, as he should. He comes with the pedigree. He comes with the name. He hasn't proven anything yet at this level, but he is probably going to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the SEC. Right? Now, I'm interested to see how long it takes him to feel comfortable when teams are game planning for him and his vulnerabilities do come out. But Arch Manning he's got all the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, if not in the entire conference. And then C.J. Baxter, the running back, tore 2 ligaments in August of last year, was supposed to be their guy. That running game was solid without him, obviously with a great offensive line. I think he's one of the most dynamic running backs in college football, and it'll be interesting to see. He had in 23, 659 yards and averaged just under 5 yards a carry. Did not play against A&M, obviously, as he got hurt. So that's kind of, as I go through the teams that A&M are going to play, you guys can text in the show and tell me the order. If I just look at this list, Anthony Hill might be the best player that A&M faces, or Jeremiah Love. Where am I wrong? Could it be one of the wide receivers from Auburn? I don't think that's going to be the case. It could be DJ Lagway, but if I were to do it right now, I would probably say Jeremiah Love is going to be the best player that they face. Maybe just being a prisoner of the moment. All right, so we'll go around the room. We'll talk to the people. You can text the show. Give me your thoughts on my list, 979-693-1150. All right, let's go behind the glass. Luke Evangelist, day 2 of being the director-producer. Luke, I just went for 14 minutes, did not breathe at all. What did you think of the list? Am I missing somebody?
I'll give you some time to breathe. So I think when you look at Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love is obviously the feature of that backfield, but the 1-2 punch between him and Jadarian Price is something that A&M fans didn't really get to see in their game, but kind of exploded as the season went on.
Yep.
He ended up finishing with over 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. And when you think of A&M's backfield and what makes Le'Veon Moss so effective is if you give him someone like a Reuben Owens or an Amari Daniels, to where if he takes one down off, there still is no drop-off in that backfield. Notre Dame's been able to do that all of last year, and they're going to be able to do that again this season with Jadarian Price. So, I mean, A&M's going to have to face that in South Bend immediately once the season starts. So, even with Jeremiah Love, if he's not on the field, they still have game breakers in that backfield.
Well, and then they have one of the best offensive lines, right? I know they lost a couple pieces, but everybody on that O-line has experience playing at a high level. And I will never again doubt a team with a bunch of freshman offensive line. Look, I think the questions are, like, Luke, tell me if you agree here. Like, they're legitimate questions, just like the questions about Arch that people get up and they're questions. They're questions until they're proven otherwise. Just because it's a question is not a slight. I think, in fact, we had questions about Jeremiah Love coming into that game. We knew he was good. We didn't know he was going to be that level of good, right? So I think they're just questions until you prove it. Arch Manning, I think, and he's just one of the few names that comes up a lot, but he's got all the potential in the world. Nobody's doubting that. I actually doubted him coming into college because I thought the high school competition he faced was inferior. But, I mean, in his limited time at Texas, he's been solid. And, you know, they have enough pieces around him that he doesn't have to be the guy. Just like Quinn Ewers last year. Quinn Ewers was not great last year. He was good. He was really good. But he was not great.
I mean, I completely agree. I think a lot of people are talking about how, well, if Arch is so great, why couldn't he play over a 7th-round quarterback that went in the 7th round of the NFL draft? I mean, that's certainly a point that could be made, but also if you're Steve Sarkisian, you're not going to go away from your quarterback that was loyal to you and has been a starter for multiple years. For everything that Quinn Ewers was, I feel like Arch getting a couple packages every game was enough for me to see, okay, he's acclimated to this level. But again, a lot of that came against ULM and not SEC opponents. And I know he scored against A&M, but you're absolutely right. I think there is still a question of, can he put it together week after week in the SEC, taking a beating of 50, 60 snaps and not just 5 or 6 every game?
Well, it to me is not only that, and that is a question for everybody, but also how do you adjust when defenses know your tendencies, right? That's where the elites become elite, is their adjustment. Their team counts on them to take over a game, not necessarily survive a game. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Ava Davis. Hola, ¿qué tal?
I don't know what that means.
That just means, you don't know Ola?
No, I know that, what that means.
Okay. Ola means hi.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding with you. How are you this morning?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. What do you have for us?
So I know yesterday y'all talked about the track team and all of their accomplishments at the conference championship, but yesterday they announced that Aggies collected 3 of the 14 postseason awards that are voted on by the league's 17 head coaches. Sophia Yakushina, sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yakushina.
Yakushina? Okay, sorry. I'm not good at names.
I'm a professional pronunciator.
Okay, good. You might have to help me on the other ones too. But securing Women's Freshman Field Athlete of the Year, earning Women's Newcomer Field Athlete of the Year, and Alexander Solovey, earning Men's Newcomer.
Have you noticed I put a Latin twist on every word I say?
I try. I was really bad in Spanish in high school.
It's okay.
I'm really bad. I try.
Even when I do Russian voices, it comes across very Latin.
Yeah, but anyways, he earned Men's Newcomer Field Athlete of the Year. Each of them earning their own personal record at the conference championship or holding and earning the program record in school history.
Awesome stuff. We got to hit a break here because Charean Williams is up next. She's going to join us at 8:20. Well, probably a little bit after that. Right now, 1775. You know, it's not just a restaurant. It is a family tradition to go and enjoy great Texas barbecue. They are the place to go. Veteran-owned and family-operated with Pitmaster brothers that just bring it. Brad and Brandon are smoking prime meats to perfection. You've got Belinda, the mother, who's crafting those mouth-watering sides and desserts, and the whole family ensuring that you get an unforgettable experience when you go to 1775. The food is great. The people are great. The community is great. When you go there, you're going to feel like you're Norm from Cheers. Everybody's going to know your name. They're going to chit-chat with you, probably about Aggie sports or whatever's happening in the world. Their dedication earned them a spot in the Texas Monthly's top 100 barbecue joints. Call them up, 979-492-6241, or visit 1775txbbq.com. it's 1775. Now we're back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Got a text from an NFL scout buddy of mine that says that David Oki, who transferred from Abilene Christian to Arkansas, looks like a real player, stud, pretty underrated portal pickup. So another name to add to the list of players that A&M is going to be facing. Let's go straight to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk, the Aggie Hall of Famer, and our good friend joining us here on the program. Charean, good morning.
Hey, how are we doing today?
Well, great. We just went through a list of the best players A&M's going to face.
Guys.
What's that? Hello. Oh, not again. Not again, guys. We can't do this again. We got to fix the problems at Brian Broadcasting. Guys, all right. Putting it on hold. No estoy bravo. No estoy bravo. Anyway, we're going to chat with Charean because she actually texted me last night. So we may have to send her a Zoom number too, guys, for the record. Apparently, this is how we're going to do things for now on. But she texted me last night that she was super fired up about Bucky Ball. I know that Bucky did an interview with, is it John Rothstein from CBS Sports yesterday, I think it was?
Yep, John Rothstein.
Yeah, I didn't get to listen to it. Did you get to listen to it by any chance, Luke?
Yeah, I transcribed it. He was great.
Yeah? All right. So that's something I'm interested in hearing what he had to say. We need to get Bucky on the show. By the way, Bucky will be at preseason kickoff, as will Coach Elko and Coach Early. I know tickets are still available, so go to the premium board if you want to do that, and we can certainly get you there. It'll be a fun event. I know we're working on some other guests. A lot of the coaches will be represented and speak even. In fact, we're going to bring back one of the ideas from last year of having a coaches roundtable. So that'll be a great event. TexAgs.com premium board. You can sign up for our preseason kickoff. Saturday, July 26th at the MSC. So looking forward to that. All right, let's. We working on getting Charean on Zoom. All right, cool. What I'll do then is I'm going to read a text that came in from Frank, and he says, David, do you know if the collegiate athletes' contracts will be public knowledge like all professional sports? No, I don't believe those will be public knowledge. Otherwise, the brown bag is still happening. Texas spent $40 million last year in NIL. I know that was a number that was thrown out there. I don't know how true these numbers are. I just saw something that Texas Tech is going to, this year, is going to spend $55 million. And what a lot of the programs are doing is front-loading these contracts because once the clearinghouse kind of is established moving forward, that, some of those contracts will not fly. I think in college sports, there's going to be a bag man no matter what, and there's always going to be loopholes, and that's just going to be the future of until you make these players employees, and by the way, they're technically employees right now, right? NIL through the university makes you an employee, right? If it was NIL directly through some of these marketing arms, it would change, but that's not the case, right? It is through the university, and yes, they're going to have the stipend, and on top of that, there'll still be some NIL potential. So I say all that to you and just wondering what that means for the future. By the way, we're probably going to have to tell Jonathan Hutton we're going to push him back a little bit. Charean, are you there? Sorry about that. I don't know. We're having some phone issues recently. You doing all right?
I'm good. How are we doing?
I'm good. Hey, so I teased it. You texted me yesterday. You're fired up about Bucky Ball. Why? Why are you so fired up?
I am. So I'm doing a story for 12th Man Magazine on Bucky. It's actually done. I talked to everybody associated with Bucky, his high school coach, his college coach, his dad, who, by the way, his parents are moving to College Station. So this is another coach, I think, that's setting down roots at A&M. That's not a guy that's looking to move on to Maryland at some point after 5 or 6 years. I think he's in the Elko, Ford, Weaver, that sort of coach that is going to be there, that this is a destination job, not part of his journey. So I'm excited about that. But, I just going through his history, like the two schools he's never been an assistant coach at any level. He started coaching when he was 15 years old, still in high school, started coaching his brother's team as a head coach. As he said, he's probably got more coaching experience than any other coach at the NCAA level. And basketball is basketball. He's right. It doesn't matter the level. Basketball is basketball. So he has a ton of experience. And not only that, but the two programs he went to at Mountain Brook High School, which is his alma mater in Alabama, which, by the way, just like Texas is a football state, and then Samford, which is in Alabama. Both of those schools had no tradition of basketball. I mean, they were bad. They were really bad before he got there. The year before he got to Samford, they were almost at the bottom in the net rankings. They were almost at the very bottom as the worst NCAA Division I team, almost at the worst. They were terrible. And he turned those two programs around, won the 5 state championships in the high school level, highest classification in Alabama. And then at Samford, we know what he did. He won 3 championships, conference championships, and coach of the year 3 times. Just an amazing job of turning around programs in a football state. So I think he fits for A&M and what we want to do. It's going to be an exciting brand of basketball, high-powered, 5th in scoring 2 years ago, 13th last year. High-powered offense. It's just going to be fun to watch. I'm super excited for basketball. I don't know if I've been this excited for basketball, men's basketball, in a really long time. But I'm excited to see what he brings in that offense.
Well, and I'm super excited about the stats that I'm seeing on these players. I've watched some of their highlights.
Yeah.
I've seen the potential in some of the highlight reels. I think he's putting together a team that can compete next season, like for real compete.
Yeah, and that's the amazing part, because when he got there, obviously he had one player. And so the ability to recruit at the level he's recruited at tells you that we'll just wait, 2 to 3 years from now when he gets the players who really fit his system, because he's going to have to adapt his system a little bit, because these players, he had to take who he could get. You're right. It turned out to be some really good players, but he's going to have the players that he wants that fit his system in the future, now that he's can recruit who he wants and doesn't, have a limited supply of players. But it's exciting, the players that he's gotten. And, a couple of them obviously are really, really, really talented players. So I just think I'm just excited for basketball and what he can bring. And, we need to be a basketball. We need to be an everything school. We don't need to just be, concentrate on football and all that. We need to be an everything school. We need to win in everything. And we won a little bit last year and teased everybody that it was going to be great, and then laid an egg in the NCAA. So I want to see us build on that and do some things that we've never done here, like get to an Elite Eight, a Final Four, all those sorts of things. I just think it would be great.
Charean, are you a little worried about being great at everything with the House settlement and where the money's going to go? And, I know it's always been the case that football gets it all, but there's going to be a finite number of dollars, at least from the university, and those programs, other schools are going to put maybe their emphasis on those sports.
Yeah, there's no question. And I worry about the future of Olympic sports at every school, not just A&M, especially at some of the schools that aren't A&M, that can't afford the tennis program and the soccer program and the track program and all of those types of things. I know track is really, really worried about the future of the college ranks because of the NIL situation and what this means for them. And, we dominate on an international level, the U.S. does, in track and field, and that could change if things change with this and programs start cutting track, for instance. So, yeah, I'm extremely concerned about the future of every program, and the women's programs especially, and this isn't going to hold up in court. I'd be highly surprised if it does. There's all kinds of Title IX violations and everything else in this deal, but based on what we have now, yes, I am very concerned about being good in every sport and concerned about the future of those sports, not just being good in those sports, but the future of those sports.
Charean, Nick Chubb to the Texans. I like the fit. I like it. And I had forgotten until Landry Locker texted or tweeted it yesterday that the Texans actually drafted him and then traded him. Is that right? Like, it was the Brock Osweiler trade?
No, they used that pick that they got. And so the Texans wanted to get rid of Brock Osweiler. And so they gave up a draft pick for the Browns to take on his salary. And with the draft pick, they drafted Nick Chubb.
There you go.
So it's kind of funny that's how it worked out. But yeah, I agree with you. Great fit for the Texans. Last year they had those injuries to Dameon Pierce and to Joe Mixon and really took a hit at the running back position. you need depth at that position. Even if you have a lead back like a Saquon Barkley, you still need depth at that position because those guys get banged up, and you're lucky if they play a full 17-game season. I love this fit. I think he could rebound second year after that devastating, horrific knee injury, and I think he could have a really good year. He might end up being their starting running back over Joe Mixon, but the combination of those three backs, Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon, and Nick Chubb, I think makes the Texans even more dangerous on offense than what they were. Now, the big concern for the Texans, today is a huge day to watch. That shoulder injury, I don't care what they say. If a guy's not throwing this time of year, that is a huge concern. And C.J. Stroud hasn't been throwing because of a shoulder injury. If he doesn't throw today, raise some red flags. There's some big concerns for the Texans about that shoulder injury. You should not have a shoulder injury at this time of the year.
Charean, last thing for you. Micah Parsons promised he would attend the mandatory minicamp. He's living up to that, and it feels like, at least from what I've seen, that they both sides feel very comfortable where this is headed.
Yeah, he's not going to participate in any on-field stuff in the next 2 days at this mini camp, and he won't do that at training camp either. If he's either not going to show up to training camp and continue to work out on his own, or he'll show up at training camp and have a hold in. That's what a lot of these players. Shamar Stewart's in the same situation. He's there today. He won't participate. Hasn't signed his rookie contract. They're still at a stalemate there. Same type deal. So you're not going to see him on the field until he gets a contract. The Cowboys are just dragging their feet like they do in all these contract situations. So hopefully they get it done sooner than later, and we'll see him at training camp. Same with Shamar Stewart.
Charean, great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, David.
And it's Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk here on TexAgs Live. Jonathan Hutton from Outkick, the coverage, will be joining us here momentarily. Right now, if your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with the Aggies, check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about the fun ones: Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, The Gathering. They all welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities to get your brand in front of those attendees. These events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand, and this includes title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by 230,000 people, by more than that, actually. If your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Lucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan, or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Lucci sent you by.
I think it's a big deal what Charean said in the last segment, that Bucky's family, his mom and dad, are moving to the area. That does resonate with me. And, like if somebody's going somewhere as a pit stop, in my opinion, they're not bringing their mom and dad, right? Now, of course, families that are close will go wherever, right? But I don't believe that's a pit stop. I believe that is a long-term, let me set my roots in this community, and let's go win some SEC titles and beyond, right? That's what it sounds like to me. You're listening to the TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. In fact, Luke Evangelist was telling me that he was listening to that interview with Bucky and John Rothstein and picked out a couple of quotes to break down. So I know my mic went out there. Give us one of the more intriguing ones, Luke.
Yeah, so immediately I think right off the bat, A&M fans are going to feel a little bit better when they hear this one. He said, we're going to be a good shooting team. When you have that, you're capable of beating anybody. It's a team you'll see make over 23s in a few games this season. To make a run in the tournament, you have to be able to shoot. We have multiple guys who could shoot over 40% from three-point land. And I like stats, so I had to go back and look. A&M, over the last 3 years combined, in 105 games, they shot over 40% from three just 19 times. Samford, 2 years ago, when that team made the tournament, shot over 40% from three in 17 of their 35 games. So something that you used to see as one of the best shooting nights in a season for A&M is just another day in Buckyball.
Now, excuse me for forgetting, but he said you're going to see us shoot make over 23s.
Going to make over 23s. They did that multiple times in every season.
Did that happen at all in the last few years for A&M?
Look, David, when I was going back and looking, A&M was lucky to make 12 threes in a game. They never even touched getting 20. So
what are his teams? What did you say his teams usually do? Is it 17? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, well, his best shooting team, the 2024 team, made over 40% from three in 17 of their 35 games. And last year, which someone on that staff put to me as a bad shooting team, did it 9 times, still more than any other year A&M did it.
That's interesting. So I don't want to be the old guy, but I'm going to be the old guy for a second. I don't like when people are so reliant on threes, but I haven't had a team that makes a lot of threes, right? Like the ability to hit threes when you can hit threes is a different kind of flex than having to hit threes to get back in a game. And when that is part of the offensive DNA, I think that's interesting. All right, what else, Luke?
One of my favorite quotes that he said when Rothstein asked him if making the NCAA tournament was a realistic goal in year one, which is what I think a lot of people at A&M are looking for, because it's great to win games in the regular season and contend in Nashville, but the real winner, the real moneymaker, is winning in March. And when John Rothstein asked him, Bucky said, yes, I certainly think it is a realistic goal. This is about a group coming together with a lot of new faces. I always expect to be in the NCAA tournament. When I was a mid-major, I expected to be in the NCAA tournament, so I better expect it when I'm at Texas A&M. And I expect that when we get there to win there, all these guys that we've recruited think the same way.
What a concept, all right? It's not just saying things as self-belief. This guy believes in his system and what he does. That's A. B, you are defined by your postseason success. Contrary to what you may have heard from prior regimes, it does not take away what you did in the regular season, but ultimately you are defined by what you do in the postseason, right? You can have a great regular season, and that does not go away. But if you leave sad, and only one team leaves happy, right? Everybody leaves sad. You could take a couple of steps away and be like, well, it was a successful year. Absolutely. But you are defined by what you do in the postseason. And I expect this team to be in the tournament based on nothing other than I'm buying the hype, right? I'm buying the hype, but I'm buying the hype based on statistics, caliber of player, and system. And when you have that, you have players that can score, a coach that, is going to demand 90 feet of action both ways. Look, it's got to come together, and that is a big TBD. But in June of 2025, before the season starts, without me ever seeing this team practice together, I've used the word intrigued. I'm more than intrigued. I expect this team to be one of the 10 best teams in the SEC. Blind faith, sure. But Luke, I bet you agree with me to be one of the, and if they're one of the top 10 teams in the SEC, that essentially would put them in the tournament, correct?
Yeah, and that's about where they're projected right now. And I know what projections look, it's the middle of the summer, but in the last couple of years, it's a little bit easier to project because you know what you have. You have 8 returning known commodities of your 10 rotation players. The transfers were always the minority, never the majority. So this year, I think it's actually more indicative of a positive sign that this team hasn't meshed together. They just started summer workouts, and just based on talent alone, people are projecting them to be 8th, 9th, or 10th in the SEC, which in year one, 3 weeks late to the portal as the last Power 5 head coach hired, you would take that any day of the week, finishing 8th, 9th, or 10th in the most competitive basketball conference in the country.
Yep.
It won't be the SEC that it was last year. I don't think teams are going to be as deep as they were last year, and I don't think it's going to be as good 1 to 14. The goal is just to not finish in that bottom 15 or 16, and you should be at least on the bubble. When you look at A&M's schedule, typically it is a bit more favorable getting LSU, Oklahoma, and Texas as their mirror opponents. You don't have to play Alabama twice. You don't have to play Auburn or Florida or Tennessee twice. You'll get half those teams at home. So there is certainly a path to making the tournament, and I don't think it's unrealistic to say that without ever seeing this team play, because just on talent alone and just on the transfer portal players they've added, based on the NBA draft stock on certain players they've added, it's not unrealistic to say that this is going to be a very talented team next season.
Mbako could be one of the 10 best players in the conference?
I mean, that's not unrealistic. I would be surprised if he didn't end up on a first team or second team preseason All-SEC team.
Cool. All right, we'll hit a break here. Right now, we're talking Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Awesome IV hydration company that was founded just a couple years back. I met with their owners, Sheldon and Danny. They're great people. Aggie owned and operated. They want to bring you the absolute best when it comes to your IV hydration. They're proud to serve the Bryan College Station community, and they have amazing services. I mentioned the IV hydration. They also do Botox. They also can help you with your weight loss options. Whether you're looking for a quick boost of hydration or dehydration preventative, they can tailor an IV cocktail specific to your needs to make you feel $100, right? On a busy weekend, an IV can also be one of the easiest ways to ensure that you're receiving all of your necessary vitamins and your minerals. Their overall mission is to bring you more of a personalized and accessible wellness option to a broader range of clientele in the Brazos Valley. To book an appointment or inquire about their services before your next event, call them or text them, 979-217-1561. That is 979-217-1561. It is Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olsen wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it. In a few minutes, we're going to have Mitt Winter on the program. He's a lawyer who follows all these college football and college athletics storylines when it comes to the legal proceedings with the House settlement, NIL, you name it. And I'm going to ask him a question that I think the answer is obvious, but to me is, does he believe that the powers that be in college athletics are doing what is right for college athletics? And I think the answer is they're doing what's right for their bottom line and their conference and their program. That's how I believe it, but I want to hear what he has to say, because how could you not, right? Like, you can say all the right things, but at the end of the day, you have to protect yourself, which is why I think you need a single entity, which is why you need a quote-unquote commissioner that, yes, he answers to the universities, the presidents, the athletic directors, but he can act on his own accord based on the health of the sport. And I think each sport needs its own guy, own person, I should say. Look, when the ACC speaks, sorry, they're worried about the ACC. Just like the SEC and Greg Sankey, right? When Greg Sankey speaks, sure, I think he cares about the health of the sport, right? Through a lens of the SEC. How could it not be? That's who pays his bills, right? Like, it's just common sense, human nature to protect what's most protective to you, right? Most concerning to you. So until they figure that part of it out, all this stuff to me is just little side steps to get eventually to a goal that's a million miles away. But there's no short term. The short term here is about protecting, and you have to in these negotiations, right? So I'll talk to Mitt about that on the other side, get his thoughts on that. Plus, we'll do a little NBA Finals talk. Got a couple Aggies involved in the NBA Finals. We'll talk to Ryan Hollins, a longtime NBA player, also color analyst for the Houston Rockets. We'll get into that. Plus, your text messages at 979-693-1150 is TexAgs Live. Today's a show that says you're not allowed to have guests. You're just going to have to tap dance for 90 minutes, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I'm sure Billy's loving it. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio having some issues with our phone lines and then people waking up. That's okay. It happens. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you could try to call us. I don't know if it's going to work, but you can text us, though, 979-693-1150. That is the text line. As we kind of juggle what we're going to do this segment, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I know Ava Davis has got some things prepared for this exact reason. Ava?
Yes, I do. A&M's women's basketball team is excited to announce the signing of elite 2025 French prospect Taylor Cavoca. I'm not really sure. I'm really bad at pronouncing names. I'm super sorry.
All right. Taylor Cavoca.
Yes.
Say it like that.
Taylor Cavoca. I don't know. Super sorry. But head coach Taylor says, we are thrilled to welcome Taylor to the Texas A&M family. Taylor brings a unique international experience representing France on the national team, providing depth in the backcourt and relentless work ethic that aligns perfectly with the culture that we are building here. Cavoca is one of the 5 international players that are set to compete for the Aggies during the 2025-26 campaign.
Awesome. That's good news. What else do you have for us?
Texas,
that's about it? Or are you
no,
going?
I have one more.
Okay,
Sorry.
let's go.
My computer's been freezing. It's about to break, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, Texas A&M women's tennis team is excited to announce their addition to their 2025-26 roster. Illinois transfer, Violet Martinez. Head coach Mark Weaver says, we are delighted to announce the signing of Violet. She plays with great energy and fight. She's extremely quick around the court, combined with excellent shot making, and she's a great addition to our tennis team.
Awesome stuff. I saw Mark Weaver the other day, one of my favorite people. He was still disappointed about the way the season ended, proud of his girls, but he was definitely disappointed. An amazing couple of years that they've had. All right, I'm going to get into a topic as we figure out what's up with Midwinter and everybody in the world. And it's from David Pollock. He says, your roster is going to get pillaged during the season if you only have a January portal window. It's interesting. So you got the 2 windows, right, that I think most people with conventional wisdom don't like, right? Then you've got, well, if you just do it in April, then it's too late to get your team going. If you do it in January, teams that are involved in the playoffs are the ones who are at a disadvantage. So he says, David Pollock says, I think it's interesting that January is there. It's a team builder. Speaking about, this was on the See Ball, Get Ball podcast. I'm just curious why it's not May. I would want to make it in May. And I'm talking about if you're building a roster, because if it's January, your roster is going to get pillaged during the season. I hate to see that. I can't stand that. He thinks that a May proposal later in the window would allow coaches to be more informed about the makeup of their own roster. In May, I kind of understand what my roster is, okay? I've been with those guys for a while, and I know what holes to fill. I don't love January because I don't love the idea of poaching. And during a season you saw last year basically committing after season to play somewhere else, the season was still going on. Kirby Smart, by the way, is on the opposite side of things, and I'll get to his thought. I think, God, there isn't. Look, there are still athletes, right? There's student athletes, I should say. There's still student athletes. And the fact that the school calendar does not match up with the season calendar or the window, it makes it very difficult. But I think this, and when we think about the portal, we think about the very top tier players potentially, but this is all around. There are so many players that enter the portal at the smaller schools that have no chance of playing beyond, and their education certainly matters. That's where I think your family has to step in and be like, let's talk about your future as a business professional beyond the sports. But that being said, not everybody has that. If you do it in May and you only have a couple of months to get your roster ready, I think that is ideal for a couple of reasons. A player who kind of can read between the lines, like, I'm not going to start here, I'm not going to play at all here, can maybe go find another home. You're not losing players to the portal in the bowl season. People will still sit out during the bowl season, but you're not losing players to that. You're still kind of in the mix for it. I think a May window, as your school year is ending, and yeah, it would suck if you lose half your roster, but I think a May window makes sense from a student athlete perspective. From a coach's perspective, there is not a good time to lose players. Never a good time. Here's what Kirby Smart has to say with it. You think tampering is a problem now? Put that in April and see what your teams do in January. I think it's just about now because we're getting ready to make a big decision on a lot of people that we believe. Well, the kids won't be able to leave if we put it in April. They'll have to stay next semester. Oh, no. They'll be on your campus getting tampered with. 33% of your cap before they leave. Not for that. So that's what Kirby Smart thinks about the entire transfer portal. And I'm going to ask Mitt Winter, who's now on the Buppies Catering Hotline, his thoughts on that. He's at NACDA, or was at NACDA. Are you still there, Mitt?
I'm still there.
How's it going out there?
It's going good. I was just in a house settlement implementation meeting with some of the ADs that are leading that. So that was interesting. Definitely lots to talk about everything going on there.
Yeah, and I want to get to that here in a moment, but just your thoughts from a legal perspective, a timing window of a transfer portal doing the January, April, May one, or doing one in May, one in January. Do you see anything that makes more, do any of those two make more sense if you're just doing one window?
I do think it probably does make more sense if there's one window. Sort of the issue is every sport has its own unique schedule. So if you're just talking about football, I think one window makes sense. And I think it makes most sense, right after the season's over. Because then people have their rosters, set before spring ball. You don't have change after spring ball. I think that probably makes the most sense. I do see some validity in people wanting a spring window instead of the other window, because at that point people might have a better idea of, all right, who's going to play this coming season, who's not going to play. And then it gives people the opportunity. Well, if I see I'm not going to play, and if the coach tells me I'm not going to play, maybe I can go to another place where I am going to play or have a chance to play. So I see both sides of it, but I think logistically it probably works better end of December, January, whatever that time period is.
I'm not sold to either one. I was leaning towards the more of a May one just because I don't like what it does to rosters at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, it was happening before the portal. People were, sitting out for bowl games for the draft or whatever it may be. So There isn't a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There are pros and cons to both, and maybe that leans toward keeping two, but there are also drawbacks to that as well.
Talking to Mitt Winter, who's a college athletics attorney here on TexAgs Live. All right, so you were in this implementation meeting about the NIL and what it's going to look like. Did you learn anything that you didn't expect?
One thing that came out of it that I don't think people had heard yet is, obviously we know that athletes are going to have to disclose their third-party NIL deals, deals with collectives and other businesses as well. And they're supposed to disclose those within 5 days of entering into the deal. And if they don't, it's not the athlete who will be punished, it's the school. So I think that's how they're looking to enforce that and make sure the athletes are disclosing their deals. And they didn't talk specifically about what the punishments would be for that, but just in general, there was a lot of talk about we're going to have different types of punishments than we've had in the past, and these are going to be some severe punishments to make sure everybody's really adhering to these new rules. So that was one interesting thing I heard. Other than that, just kind of general things about they're going to have a new cap management system that's going to be run by a software company called LBI, where everyone's submitting their cap numbers, how much they're paying to their athletes, who's being paid, to make sure they're not circumventing the cap. And there was also some talk about if you're going to try and circumvent the cap, there's going to be some severe punishments there as well. So a lot of talk about, this is a new world and things are going to look different. And we're trying to operate more like a pro sports model. Like Ohio State's AD even said, we wanted this to look like a pro sports model in terms of the enforcement and all of that.
So phase one of this whole NIL future was in 2021, right? Do you think this is officially the second chapter, the second phase of, are we officially there? And is it still, in your eyes, a Wild West, but maybe a cleaned up Wild West?
Yeah, I would say we're definitely in the second chapter for sure. Chapter one was boosters and collectives paying almost all the NIL compensation to athletes. Now that is shifting to, all right, the schools are going to be the ones that are contracting with and paying the vast majority of NIL compensation to the athletes. And there's going to be a lot more attempted, at least, structure and regulation around that in terms of how much they can be paid, limits on the third party deals, punishments if you're not following the rules. Before there theoretically were rules, they weren't really being enforced. And during this panel, that was another thing that came up there. Like, we had rules, but no one was following those rules. And so our coaches have gotten used to there really being no rules and just kind of doing whatever they want. And so, like, there's going to have to be a mindset shift. Now we are going to have rules. If you don't follow them, there's going to be severe punishments. So they talked about that mindset shift, which I think is probably right. So it'll probably take some time for that to happen. A lot of education for coaches and everyone else. But so we'll see how all that goes.
Help me understand the timeline of things. So I know a lot of these schools, collectives are front loading these contracts. Like, if you pay them now, I guess you're fine until July 1st. Is that how it works? Is it, like, hey, like Texas Tech, I think is going to pay $55 million. That's the rumor on the internet. Who knows what's true? But if you pay them now, can they come get you later?
Yeah. So what the NCAA has said on that, as long as a collective or booster deal was entered into before the settlement was approved, so before Friday, theoretically, or on Friday before the order came out, and all the payments are before July 1, those are not going to be reviewed. So it's basically a free pass on those. And that's those front-loaded deals that you've been referring to. So that, that reported $55 million that Texas Tech athletes are receiving this year, I think that includes the $20.5 million that the school's allowed to pay, plus 35 probably in front-loaded contracts where the money will all be paid before July 1. So none of that stuff will have to go through the review process. It's interesting, on Friday, after the settlement approval order came out, I'm sitting at my kid's basketball game, and I start getting some messages from people like, hey, can you call me right now? I'm like, I'm at my kid's basketball game. Let's talk tomorrow morning. They're like, no, I need to talk to you now. So people were asking me, hey, can we enter into a front-loaded deal now before midnight? Is that going to have to be reviewed? And I said, well, according to this NCAA guidance, it said it had to be entered into before approval of the settlement. So people are already, trying to think about ways to get around and evade the new rules. So we'll be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah. So how do they police it? Like, who's the czar? Who's the guy who's going to take over and be like, no, this school made this mistake at this point, and this is the punishment?
Yeah, so that's going to be the new College Sports Commission that's already been created, and they have hired a new CEO, a guy named Brian Hadad, who's coming from Major League Baseball. He was their head of investigations and deputy general counsel, so he has experience in this world of investigating salary cap circumvention. So that's the entity that's going to be in charge of investigating and levying this punishments, which is another thing that they talked about in this panel that I listened in on. Is in the past, NCAA enforcement, your conduct is being reviewed and penalties being levied basically by your peer institutions, ADs and presidents at other universities. That's changing now. This commission is not going to have university employees on it. It's going to be Brian Hadad and whoever else his staff is that are going to be reviewing the conduct and levying the penalties. So it'll be a little more less conflict of interest in terms of how that process works.
All right, so we talked about phase 1 and phase 2. What do you think phase 3? What does it look like? Is it athletes as employees?
Hard to say. I think a lot depends on what happens with federal legislation. So some news has come out the past couple of days. There's a couple of new federal bills that are being introduced this week that would say college athletes cannot be employees, gives the NCAA, College Sports Commission, some antitrust exemptions to basically codify the House settlement terms to allow the salary cap and the third-party restrictions. There's another hearing on at least one of those bills on Thursday. So if one of those bills ever does get passed and signed into law by the president, theoretically, college athletes could not be employees, and they then couldn't collectively bargain and all that stuff. The the terms of the settlement would be allowed to move forward without, with legal protection and without fear of being sued under antitrust law. So that's one avenue. That's definitely a possibility. And I think the chances of a federal law getting passed are probably stronger now than they have been at any other point, now that the settlement process has happened and the settlement got approved. If that doesn't happen, then employment's a definite possibility. There are some cases pending on that now. There probably will be some more filed in the future, I would imagine. So I think those are kind of the two possibilities that we have right now. I guess the third one is there's a federal law that gets passed that says, okay, college athletes aren't employees, but they are going to be allowed to negotiate the rules with whoever it is, the NCAA, college sports commission. So I think those are kind of the three avenues we have right now, and which one ends up being the future, I don't know. No one really knows. We'd all be guessing on what that looks like. But to your point, I think that would be sort of NIL 3.0 or college sports 3.0, if you want to call it that.
In those scenarios, is there a one, like, if they're not employees of the university, how do they curtail, if you will, the transfer portal and this free transferring that obviously it's their right to do, and the courts have spoken, but I do think the future of the game could use some restrictions there.
Yeah, one of the federal laws or bills that's been introduced would give an antitrust protection for transfer limits as well. So that's one possibility. A federal law would grant antitrust protection for those types of rules as well. And that's kind of a new thing that was added to one of these bills. And I think it's a direct reaction to, number one, all the transferring that we're seeing now. And a lot of people aren't fans of that. And then number two, there is a lot of litigation going on right now on eligibility rules and transferring and things like that. So I think it's a direct reaction to that. So either you have a federal law that provides protection for those types of rules, or some sort of negotiated bargained solution on those rules.
Do you think we are in a better place today than we were a month ago when it comes to college athletics?
Yeah, I would say so. This is the House settlement's at least an attempt to bring more structure and regulation to the messiness that's been going on the past 4 years. So, which I think is a good thing. Whether the House settlement terms are in place for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, it's probably not going to be the final model for college athletics. But I do think everyone agrees that it's better for college athletics to have some more structure and regulation around everything. It's just a question of how we get there and what it ultimately looks like.
A few years ago, nobody knew what a collective was. Now collectives are part of the sport and the framework of these NIL deals. How do collectives fit in this new future?
Yeah, I think that's going to vary by school. If you're a school that's not going to hit your rev share cap, you're probably not going to have a collective because there's zero need for it. If you're a school like a Texas A&M that's going to be hitting your rev share cap, you're probably going to have a collective that still exists, whether that's a completely separate third party, or we've seen some schools sort of announce, like Ohio State recently this week said, we're consolidating our collectives. They're going to basically become part of this new in-house marketing agency we're creating for our athletes called Buckeye Sports Group. They're partnering with Learfield to go out and help athletes find deals, but donors are also still going to be able to give to this Buckeye Sports Group. And from what just reading about it, sounds like still be able to at least attempt to enter into some deals with boosters, as long as they're able to get them through the clearinghouse. So at schools like that, collectives are still going to stick around. How they function will probably be a little bit different. Some are just going to try and be straight marketing agencies, go out and find these real NIL deals. Some will still try and do the booster type of deals that we've seen in the past, and just hope that they can get them through this new review process. So I think that's going to probably shift over time too, as people see how strict is this their Deloitte clearinghouse, what kind of things can I do to try and maneuver through that process? So that's going to probably change over time, but collectives will, at least for now, still be around at some schools.
Matt, last thing for you. What do you see any potential loopholes that, and I'm sure they're already figuring things out, that's how it works, but that university is going to be able to expose their athletic programs?
Yeah, people here have definitely been talking about that kind of in private conversations, like, what about this loophole and what about that loophole? So those conversations are definitely starting. And one thing I heard is a lot of the basketball coaches, especially at P4 institutions, are not happy with how rev share is going to look for them in terms of what slice of the rev share budget they're going to get from their schools. Because at P4 schools, obviously the most is going to football, 75, 80%. And that leaves basketball at a lot of places with maybe $4 million. And at a place like Kentucky, where basketball is king, the coaches are like, $4 million is a lot less than what we've been paying our roster for the past 2 years, and especially this year. How am I going to be able to compete in a world where you're taking my payroll from maybe $15, $20 million down to $4 million? And they all think, oh, this other school is going to figure out a way to keep paying this much, so I need to figure out a way to keep paying that much as well with third-party money. So we'll definitely see, some different strategies to try and get third-party money to athletes, and that'll vary. And we'll see how effective the CSC is in trying to shut that type of stuff down. No one really knows, but people are definitely already thinking about and trying to figure out different workarounds.
Man, I lied to you. I want to say one more thing. What about schools like SEC schools, A&M in particular, and other that really value all the sports, right? So we want our basketball team to go deep into March. We want our baseball team to win the College World Series. Obviously, football is top dog here. Like, are those sports now at a disadvantage with schools that have their priority is basketball and their priority is baseball?
Possibly, yes, because, as we talked about, when there's a school-wide cap as opposed to a sport cap, a different cap for each sport, it really makes the schools have to pick and choose, which sports are we going to try and fund at the highest level and really emphasize. And like you said, at a place like A&M, that's going to be football, but they want to be competitive in all the other sports too. And maybe there's another school that decides, all right, we don't think we necessarily can compete in football, so we're going to put a lot of money towards baseball or basketball or softball or whatever it is. And so you'll definitely have situations where within conferences, a team might have double the payroll for their baseball team compared to another team. And obviously the team with double the payroll is going to have a big advantage. So I think at some point in the future, we'll probably see that salary cap switch from a school-wide cap to maybe more of a sport-wide cap, just to address that very issue.
Man, I appreciate your time, man. I know you're enjoying the conference. Thanks for making a few minutes for us.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Take care. At Winter on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Always good analysis there. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with an open. And then I think, depending on the phone situation, we'll talk to Ryan Hollins about the NBA Finals. Whether you're chasing birds at sunrise, casting lines from the bow, or sweating it out during a scorch at Kyle Field, Duck Camp has the gear to keep you cool, comfortable, and looking sharp no matter where the day takes you. Duck Camp gear is phenomenal, guys. Their performance-driven outdoor apparel made for the blind, the boat, and even those early Aggie football games where the only thing hotter than the seats is the scoreboard, hopefully. And they have lightweight performance hoodies, breathable, quick-dry, made to battle that 100-degree kickoff heat. Those scout shorts, tough enough for the hunt, stylish enough for post-game beers. Essential hoodie, so soft and comfortable you might decide to sleep in it. And the lightweight fishing shirt built for the flats, but clean enough for your tailgate. Whether you're gearing up for a hunt, fishing trip, or just trying to survive that September heat in College Station, Duck Camp has you covered. Check it out at duckcamp.com. Duckcamp.com, built for the outdoors, designed for everything else. It's Duck Camp. Hey everyone, David Nuño and Olin Buchanan. And OB, typically we start off the show in this section, and we call it the Holistic Planning Cool
The cool zone, yeah. It's pretty cool.
What do we know about holistic planning?
Well, a lot of cool stuff. For instance, holistic planning can help you with your investments.
I love that.
They can help you with your taxes. So
I don't like paying taxes.
You can get that money from your investments and they keep it. They'll help you keep it away from the government.
Yep.
Not all of it, but more of it. And then they'll even help you with your estate planning. When you're old like me, you got to make sure some of that money you made is there for when you want to retire and just enjoy the rest of your life.
You want your estate to be planned, but they also do something else.
Yeah. Well, if you are like, say, a sports fan and you've always wanted to,
everybody watching us, right?
Yeah. And you want to always dreamed of being an owner? Well, in a certain way you can, because they will broker the deal for you to invest in pro sports.
Yeah, what you need to do is check out investinprosports.com. That's where you can get all the information if you want to invest in a team. I don't know what team. He'd probably try to buy the Cowboys. I'd try to buy a lot of the Houston teams. Whatever it may be, investinprosports.com. It is holistic planning, and we love hanging out at the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the program. We're going to talk a little NBA, I think, in the next segment. Interested to see how that series plays out. I don't know who I'm actually rooting for because I like the Pacers story. Look, I know most of our audience isn't NBA people. I hear from you guys. I know. But I know you guys love Aggies and you love Aggie basketball. So Quentin Jackson representing the Pacers and Alex Caruso representing Oklahoma City, or more than representing. What do you have, 20 points in the last game, Luke? I think that's what it was, 20 and like...
Yep, he had 23 rebounds and assists, tied his playoff career high with 20 points, and we'll talk more about him in our Aggies in the Pros segment.
Oh, is that right? Look at that. Is Matthew Dawson going to be here?
TBD on if Matthew Dawson is in the building. I do not see him in our crowded back room, but I'm sure he's on his way here, and he's always on time.
Yeah. So anything from that interview with Mitt Winter jump out to you? Because it kind of depends on who, in my opinion, Luke, you talk to. But like, there's a group that, you know, we've had, 3-4 interviews about this topic that kind of feel like this is just, you know, a little makeup on a pig, right? Like, yeah, sure, there's some rules, but it's not a lot. And then I felt like Mitt was a little bit more optimistic about the future of it from a legal perspective and where they're headed. Is that the same vibe you got?
Yeah, that's how I feel as well from hearing Mitt. One thing I thought was interesting was how the moment this was passed, the House settlement was passed, it was like a Wild West race to sign any NIL deal you could with an existing school or with a player that was still in the portal. I think of Desmond Claude from USC, who was like the last top 200 player that was uncommitted in the portal, signed with Washington. Like, because there was that race to get it in right before June 6th, once the clearinghouse was going to start having to approve any deal over $600. So in an effort to avoid that, I think you honestly might have, in an effort to create a solution, you might have created an even bigger problem of schools signing outrageous deals right before the deadline to beat the buzzer and to try and get these players on their roster for maybe baseball for next season, or especially in basketball. You might have just created an influx of craziness for that 3-hour period between the time it was passed at 9 p.m. to then midnight that day, to just try and get a deal in before it would have to be approved, because you still don't know what Deloitte is going to quantify as a reasonable price for an athlete. Maybe, as Mitt Winter brought up Kentucky basketball, it's no secret as to what they were paying for their roster, over $10 million for this year. Maybe Deloitte thinks a player is worth $500,000 and he thinks he's worth $2 million. Well, how is that going to go down? So
Right.
I think there was a big rush to get whatever you could in now, as opposed to, maybe this was looking like a solution and it might have just caused an even bigger problem in the short term.
I don't mind a player making as much as they can make, right? I would try to make as much as I can make too. Where I have a problem is the timing of some of your decisions. And like, for instance, pay me or I won't play in the college football playoffs. I have a problem with that. Now, some people say Nico didn't say that. Some people say Nico his camp was definitely asking for that. I wasn't there. I don't know. But to me, like, going in the portal for more money is where I have problems. If whatever company decides that you're worth this to put your name on that's fine, right? Like, if, Maroon U wants to pay Christian and Cruz Nuño X amount of dollars to represent them as soccer players, great, or whatever that is. But if then they're like, you know what, we're not going to play in this Consol high school varsity playoff game unless you pay me $17 more, which that's the cap, then I have a major problem with that. But I also understand those who are advocating for the athlete are going to do everything possible to make as much money as possible because, A, they get paid for it, and B, their job is to satisfy their clients' needs. All right, I think we'll talk to Ryan Hollins on the other side. I'm hoping. It's been one of those days. A moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you're looking for a selection that won't break the bank, you need to reach out to the good folks there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're stocking up on new vehicles as we speak. That inventory is growing daily. They are locally owned, and Aggie alumni is ready to roll out the red carpet for you, and they can talk about value, the trade-in value and the value that you're getting from working with Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Their pre-owned inventory is moving fast, and you want top dollar on your vehicle, check them out because they'll take great care of you. Remember, it's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and you do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, we're back on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Ryan Hollins, who does color commentary for the Houston Rockets and played a long time with the Clippers, the Mavs. He'll be joining the show here momentarily on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Before we do that, I want to go through Greg McElroy's top 10 list of games, non-conference games that he's got an eye on. Well, actually, we'll get to that here at around 50 after. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline, as I mentioned. Ryan Hollins joining us here on the program. Ryan, good morning, bud. How you been?
Morning. How you doing?
Great, man. Thanks so much for joining us here for a few minutes. So just your thoughts on this NBA Finals, actually the journey to get to the Finals with the way the Pacers have been just with these miracle comebacks and the Thunder kind of, flexing the muscles that we expected them to flex this year?
Man, first off, I'd like to say that the NBA is back as far as basketball is concerned. I think the ratings may be down or the interest may not be there because there's not a star there. And a lot of times that's hardcore NBA fans. We're watching regardless, but it's those household names that you normally draw in with the Currys and the LeBrons and the Durant. So unfortunately, that's missing. But this is some of the best basketball that we've seen in a long time. And I think it's exciting because you're seeing the team that moves the ball the best in the NBA by a mile against a team that guards the ball the best by a mile. And that's what ended up playing out. The Thunder had been dominating the entire year. You got to have respect for what they have been doing. Shea is deservedly the MVP, and he's shown it here in the playoffs. And as far as Tyrese Halliburton, man, he's had some clutch moments that we can put up this season, this playoffs, with some of the NBA's best, the likeness of a Michael Jordan, a Reggie Miller, a Kobe Bryant, as far as the shots that he's hit, maybe not the overall play consistently through the game, but the shots that he's hit, man, that dude has a different gear.
Yeah. Ryan, do you think SGA and Tyrese Halliburton are going to be household names when this series is over with? Do you think if they have that kind of performance that the folks that don't follow the NBA like diehards do will be all in?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they'll be all in just from this season, but they're definitely going to become more and more recognizable. And Shea more so for his fashion, obviously Halliburton for the shots that he's hit, and bringing some interest to Indiana. They didn't. These are two teams that just didn't have a slew of nationally televised games. Everybody's looking to see the Lakers with Luka and LeBron, or Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. Those are still the box office names, but I think that's how legacies are built. And at one point in time, those guys had to build their own. Now, LeBron James was a different beast in a sense, and I think he's got to be appreciated because he's a guy who came in with the hype. He came with the name, and he lived up to expectations. And I mean, better than I do, how rare is that? You don't find guys that come in with that hype that we call the next Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson, and then they actually live to it. So shout out LeBron for doing that.
Talking to Ryan Hollins here on TexAgs Live. Ryan, what about Alex Caruso? He's one of our favorites, played at A&M. The guy just he makes teams better. Whatever team he goes to, and he does the little things, and then every once in a while he'll score 20 for you.
Man, the thing about Caruso is funny. I was just talking about this the other day. I think he's the most universally liked. He's one of the more universally liked players in the NBA. You got to love for him. You got to respect for his game, what he brings to the table. He competes. He kind of has this silent confidence. He don't talk no trash. He just puts in the work. And when Oklahoma City went looking after veterans, guys that they thought that could fit their mold and not break their culture and kind of the things that they were doing to get over the top, he was one of the first on their list. So he's a huge, huge part of what they're doing. And I think one of his biggest moments was guarding Nikola Jokic. I mean, I knew the guy was a heck of a defender, but my God, that's just unbelievable. But he's a fan favorite, man. And with the way that he plays, he could make that impact on any team that he's on. So shout out to AC. He's a hard worker. He's been a grinder. He's been a dog since his college and high school days, and glad to see him getting his flowers.
In a 7-game NBA series in the NBA Finals, is there a game that to you matters the most? They all matter. I recognize that. But if the Pacers can go up 2-1 on the road, does that change the trajectory, or is this going to be a 12-round heavyweight battle?
Well, if you get it to the point of 3-1, that's the dagger. I think that those 2-2, the potential 2-2 or 3-1 games, those are the games that you get real hell. Because you go down 3-1, it's pretty much a death sentence. It's hard to come back from that because you spend so much emotionally energy so much emotional energy and strategy, and you got to play your best cards just to get back in. And then obviously Game 7. So I think those games that could go 2-2 or 3-1, or the games that get that, or Game 7, those are the most pivotal games that you'll see in this series, because they're literally. And I know you guys are tired. I know you guys are tired of hearing it. A do or die game, a must win. They're all must wins, right? But those games are the true must wins for those who are watching.
Ryan, I'm sure you're probably sick of talking about it, but the Luka trade, just bring it back for a second. In your mind, is it possible, because I can't fathom it, but I'll just ask, that the Mavs are in a better place when they draft Cooper Flagg with the team that they have? Or no, man, you had Luka, one of the top 3-4 players in the league. You can't be in a better place.
Man, they have a really good ball club. I'm telling you, man, if AD didn't get hurt and they didn't get attacked by injuries, we actually saw my Houston Rockets. We saw them Game 1 when AD first played. In the first half, like, our group couldn't score. We were looking like, what the heck is this? Like Kyrie, Clay, and then like AD, like it wasn't just like, I'm chilling AD that kind of floats around. It was like him aggressive, going to the basket, and then like defensively he was covering ground. So no, they're very legit, and they very much have a chance to have been better. And then obviously I think Cooper Flagg, the big knock to the trade was that you didn't get more picks. Cooper Flagg might be the equivalent of like 2 picks, or you got something sure. Cooper Flagg is going to be a good NBA player. It may not be a superstar, megastar in the league, but at a worst case scenario, with his size, his ability to shoot, defend, and kind of grow in the league and kind of get up and down, he's an exciting player. You got that, and I think even more so for Dallas, you got a player that's marketable, that you can get behind. Okay, and that's what they lost in Luka. The fan base said, with all due respect to the other guys who play hard beyond basketball, we just like Luka. Like, we watch him, there's Luka magic. Okay, there's moments that he's given the Mavericks that they'll never forget. But Cooper Flagg can be. He's not going to be Luka, but he's something that the fans can get behind.
What about the Rockets? What do you think that they need? Do they just need time? Because a young team that keeps growing each year, do they just need time, or do you think they need a piece?
I think the gold with the front office as they evaluate is that they've been able to be patient. Sometimes in life, even more so than basketball, we get in positions where we got to make a move, where we don't have choices. And for the Houston Rockets right now, they have choices. And what their front office has been able to do, and Ime and Rafael Stone and Matt Bullard and those guys over there, is they've been able to see a process like this, and they evaluate, hey, how did our guys do during the regular season? How do they do during the playoffs? How do you win in the NBA playoffs? The way you win is different. Before we were saying, go get a bunch of three-point shooters, right? You can't guard shooters. Then we'd say, go get a bunch of versatile guys, right? Or go get as many superstars as you can find. Right now, it looks like you get deep, you get younger, and you get IQ, you get intelligence, okay? That's what we're seeing. So the Houston Rockets are watching the way you win and say, they might be looking at the way the NBA Finals is shaking up and saying, do we need to make a move to get a guy? Or do we need to have 8 or 9 strong players on the team? Right now, that looks like the way to go. Where before it was like, you got to run after a Steph Curry. You got to run after LeBron James or Durant. Nah, it's looking like 8 or 9 strong, 10 strong. You win with that. So I'm intrigued to see what Houston does in the offseason, but I love the options, and I know that they've got some great young talent that they can work around. It should be a fun offseason.
Ryan, last thing for you. I'm going to show my age here, but just curious your perspective of if Dream played today, if MJ played today, tell me what their careers would look like.
Well, for one, Michael Jordan, the way the game is played today, you were slotted into positions back then. Michael Jordan would have the ball in his hands. He'd be playing point guard. SGA's not a point guard. SGA's a 2, but you put the ball in his hands. So Michael Jordan would be bringing the ball up floor. And now, instead of me waiting for someone to feed the ball to Michael to cut and move, he would have, more time with the ball in his hands. So I think those assist numbers for Michael would skyrocket. I think he'd be playing a lot more pick and roll and that'd be very dangerous. He'd go pick and roll, and then he'd go ISO and just kind of get into his work. He'd work off the bounce more. And for Hakeem, I think you'd see a game similar to Giannis Antetokounmpo, where you'd be saying, big fella, get off the glass and push. And with his footwork, oh my God, that's nasty. That's nasty. You don't got to wait and post him up, and the defenses can't key in on him. He'd work off more so off the elbows. Dream had a yamper. That's a jumper for those who don't know. So he'd be able to shoot the ball from three. So those guys inserted in today's NBA, oh my gosh, like that's phenomenal. So you can only expect, and it's funny when we talk about the GOAT conversation, things like that. It's not fair. Like Kareem was a guy who could probably handle the basketball and push full court and could have had with his athleticism, what he had to display, even shown even more. So, as we compare eras, make no mistake, it's not fair as we do it, because we get to see the most out of these guys, these stars today, that kind of the game is truly, truly opened up.
Ryan, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much. We'll do it again at some point, all right?
Oh, man, anytime, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Ryan Hollins on the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Appreciate his time here on TexAgs Live. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with an open segment before we start the 10 o'clock hour. Right now, when it comes to preserving your farm or your ranch's legacy, it's not just about capturing those pretty pictures or some videos that you post on Facebook memories. That's cool and all, but you need to have a professional tell the story so that story is told to the next generation and the generation after that. Chance McClain started Heritage Films, telling people stories. He's still doing that. He's telling your dad's story, your mom's story, but he's also doing your family business and your family ranch's story, transferring the values that you built your operation on to the generations that will inherit it. Chance has interviewed thousands of people across America, and he's discovered something very profound. These aren't just businesses, they're blueprints for the American dream. They are exactly that, and building character, and you can think about it in 100-year cycles to cattle ranchers preserving the traditions. Farm and Ranch Films captures the wisdom that your grandkids and their grandkids are going to need, knowing about the soil and the ranch that their family was found on. Visit yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, and click on Farm and Ranch, or call them up, 713-893-8341, to preserve not just your story, but your family's foundation. It's Heritage Films. All right, guys, let's talk about some new partners, Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. They're Aggie owned and operated. They are an mobile IV hydration company that was founded back in 2024. I met with Sheldon and Danny over the last week, and they're awesome people. They really know what they're doing. They're proud to serve Bryan College Station with awesome services like IV hydration, Botox, and even some weight loss options. Whether you're looking for a quick boost of hydration or dehydration preventative, they can tailor an IV cocktail specific to your needs. And on a busy weekend, I know some of you guys might be partying a little bit too much. If that's the case, an IV can be one of the easiest ways to ensure you're receiving all those necessary vitamins and minerals to make you feel better. Their overall mission is to bring a more personalized and accessible wellness option to the broader range of clientele here in the Bryan College Station and Brazos Valley area. To book an appointment or inquire about it, just call them up or text them, 979-217-1561. Again, it's Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. Check them out. It's our friends at Aggieland Hydration and Injectables. I wish Ryan Hollins knew college football. He's a good guest. I really liked him. Luke, I see you bobbing your head. You liked his analysis. And I saw you kind of do the tiger fist bump when he was talking about AC Fresh.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I can't control what our audience likes, but you know I like basketball. And so it's just refreshing to get a great basketball guest, which, by the way, credit to you. And two, for him to just deliver on what we were expecting. And he couldn't have put it any better with what he said about Alex Caruso. And it's just good to hear an Aggie get love like that from one of the best guys in the business.
Do you remember what you said on the rewind yesterday? If we got X amount of this or that, you would do this. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so I do remember I said that if that video got 25 likes and 25 comments, I would attend the basketball walk-on tryouts and try out for the team. Do you have an update on where that's at?
I do. Your number is at 33.
33 likes?
33 likes.
How many comments?
Let's see. How many comments did you say it had to be?
I said 25.
Oh, darn it. We've got 6 comments.
Okay, yeah.
But we have 24 hours. So if people go and
hold on, tryouts are tonight.
Yeah, but by 11 a.m., by the end of this show, by the time the next rewind is shot, if we get to those 25 comments, and I don't care if those comments come from people who work at TexAgs, like Ava over here or Nick in the back, or if they just say A, B, C. If you go to our YouTube page and look at yesterday's rewind, you'll try out tonight to be a walk-on on Bucky's team.
Well, hold on. We don't want them to leave this stream to go to another video, do we?
Bro, there's
we want
multiple
all their
browsers.
attention.
We can do it.
No. Hold on. That might be a little bit complicated. We want all their attention on this stream right here. So
the numbers are moving up.
This live stream. Do whatever you do. Do not leave this live stream.
I'm on the live stream, and I'm commenting, and I'm talking to you. I can do 3 things at once.
All right, that's fair.
Ava's doing it. I'm doing it now, too. We're going to get to 25. You have to try out. Deal with it, buddy. When we come back on TexAgs Live, Mateo Moscona. We'll talk to Matt Moscona about LSU, get his thoughts. Can they live up to the hype? We'll get a breakdown. After that, Brian Hadad, who covers Mississippi State. We're doing our insiders, guys. That's what we do. It's TexAgs Live. And we're back. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering Hotline. Good friend of the show, Matt Moscona, LSU insider, host of After Further Review on weekdays 3 to 6 and ESPN Baton Rouge. He's all over the place, New Orleans, Lafayette, Lake Charles, you name it. Matt, welcome to the program, buddy. How you been?
David, I'm great, man. Always good to chat.
Great to chat with you as well. Look, I wanted to do a little baseball before we get to football. We're doing a lot of our football previews. But LSU, what a fun journey it's been if you're an LSU fan. A team that got close to maybe exiting early, but when you figure things out, it goes a long way, and now they get their toughest challenge with Arkansas.
Yeah, this is a really talented LSU baseball team. A lot of people have asked the comp to 2023, the team that won it. I'd say the difference is that team was so offensive. You had Paul Skeens, but maybe the depth of the pitching staff wasn't there behind Skeens. This team, the strength is pitching and defense. Ben McDonald has said it many times on LSU broadcast this year. The key to this team is run prevention with pitching and defense. So when the offense gets going, they're really tough to beat. But at times we've seen, I saw in the series against A&M, LSU scored 7 runs in 3 games against the Aggies. So when the offense goes in the deep freeze, it's a challenge. But if they're swinging the bats, the pitching and defense are usually good enough to beat anybody.
Matt, as an outsider's perspective, you look at what happened to A&M baseball this year, and then they showed at times who they could be. Like, how do you kind of look at them and try to project the future, not necessarily based on the talent that's going to be coming back, but just on what they showed against some of the top teams in college baseball, but also the beginning and the end of the season, the Missouri series,
Sure.
and obviously some of the non-con?
I mean, I think I don't know that my take is necessarily unique. A&M went all in to keep a roster together behind Michael Early. And I know there were injuries, and some of that's you just never want to see with anybody, and especially at this level with guys who have great pro futures. But it was a little shocking to see it start the way it did. And I think that's always the risk you take when you hire the popular coach to keep a roster together. Now, I don't know Michael Early, and I can't give you any perspective. You're way better at that than me. I'm just giving you an outsider's perspective. I think it was impressive how when they got it together, how the fact that they made a run, got in the conversation for the postseason was stunning considering how it started. I think the most interesting thing will be what will the commitment level be, and this is true, David, for any program at this stage of rev share and NIL. What is the commitment level going to be from boosters, benefactors, NIL to continue to put these rosters together, especially if you don't succeed on the field? So that's not unique to A&M. That's true at LSU and Tennessee and Arkansas and all the major programs that are trying to win every year. But you have to have talent to win, especially in this league. And A&M had it this year and fell short. But I think you saw in the middle of that season what the possibilities can be, provided they continue to get the talent there at College Station, which if you got the financial commitment to do it, they'll continue to do it.
Matt, let's turn to football. Is this Brian Kelly's most talented team in Baton Rouge? And what kind of bullseye pressure do you think he has this year based on, such a great transfer portal class and what the expectations are?
It's not even close. By far his best team. And listen, and I know people can say, man, they had Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. They did. And that was the best offense in college football. I mean, they had the top scoring and total offense that year in college football. But remember, that was, David, also, that was literally the worst defense in the history of LSU football. No defense in the history of the program allowed more yards and points than that one. They, I think, realized to be competitive, their portal approach was not working. When Brian Kelly got hired, his ambition or his expectation was build and develop through the high school ranks, supplement in the portal. So he went from, 18 portal transfers to 13 to 9 a year ago. And it wasn't like it was 9 impact guys. It was just 9 bodies. I think they realized, okay, if you want to be able to compete at the highest level, you've got to invest more resource in the portal to get impact players. And they did, man. They went and signed 18 transfers. I know most people probably don't know all the names and what they did, and that's okay. But just understand that at every level on both sides of the ball, they went and added top-tier impact guys. LSU did this year in the offseason what Ole Miss and Ohio State did last year, which is they pushed all their chips to the middle in the transfer portal. Now, I don't know if it'll work, but you asked the question, is this the most talented roster Brian Kelly's had? It's not even close, yes.
Where do you think Nuss fits in the 16 starting SEC quarterbacks, considering experience level, His high level games are really high. He's had a couple obviously low moments, but where do you put him? And considering there's not a lot of experience in SEC quarterbacks right now.
Well, that's the ticket, right? So if you're having the conversation, David, you tell me if you disagree with this. That conversation typically starts with some combination of Nussmeier, Arch Manning, Lenora Sellers, and DJ Lagway, right? I mean, in whatever order. That's right. What most people say, maybe Diego Pavia, who nice season. Garrett Nussmeier is the leading returning passer in college football. I don't think a lot of people realize that. He's the only returning 4,000-yard passer in the country. Now, maybe Arch and Lagway, Sellers, maybe they have higher ceilings. But if you're talking about a guy that's going into his fifth year that's the leading returning passer in college football, like, I would take him. If you told me I had to take one guy among all those this year, I would take Nussmeier. Now, if you're telling me long-term, next 3 years, we could have the conversation about Lagway or Sellers or Arch or any of them. But, Nuss has been in this program for 5 years. He's got the experience. And I'll tell you, David, the conversation here is, we've seen this before now 3 times with guys who started for the first time at LSU in their 4th year and had good seasons. And then their 2nd year as the starter, the 5th year, was parabolic. Zach Mettenberger did it. Joe Burrow did it. Jaden Daniels did it. We know 2 of them won the Heisman. I'm not sitting here saying Nuss is going to win the Heisman, but if he's incrementally better, and you all saw him at the Gabe Kyle Field in the second half at his worst, the 3 turnovers cost LSU that game. But they're not even a competitive team last year without Garrett Nussmeier quarterback. So if you ask me if I had to take one this year, I would take Garrett. But that may change if you're looking at a longer-term answer.
Matt, I love your perspective on Marcel Reed, a guy that I believe gets docked points because of some of the defensive issues at the end of games last year. His numbers are competitive with DJ Lagway. I'm not saying he's DJ Lagway, but I do think he's one of these quarterbacks that there's a lot of questions from Aggie fans and Aggie analysts, but also the high version of him that LSU got to see is extremely high.
Right? So, like, the Aggies saw Nussmeier in the second half at his worst, and LSU saw Marcel Reed at his best. Yeah. So generally, with all things, the truth lies somewhere in between. The ability is undeniable with Reed. I mean, you saw it against LSU. So he's a guy that I look and say, okay, is he among that group of players that the experience will serve him well? And if it does, then you would expect the gigantic leap year 1 to year 2. If it doesn't, and he has a sophomore slump, well, then I think that could be devastating for A&M this year if that doesn't work out for Reed. I tend to think that you give guys more experience, generally they're going to improve. The game slows down, they're all better. When the physical ability is there, it makes sense. I mean, there's a reason why you're looking at all the projections that have A&M somewhere in the top 15, and he's a big part of it, man. They got a roster, they got a really good coach in Elko, and you got a quarterback with experience. So I get it. I get the hype. I don't know that I would sit here and tell you that there's Heisman hype in this year with Reed. But as a long-term bet, that's a young guy with a ton of talent who gained valuable experience last year. It's never fun going through the growing pains with a young quarterback. But the expectation is you're better on the other side because of it. And I think that's probably where A&M is.
Matt, how has the way you look at the A&M LSU rivalry evolved over the last few years, considering LSU dominated A&M's first few years in the SEC, but since 2018 has gone back and forth with the home team winning all the games. And I've seen a couple of the post-game shows, how angry you guys get when A&M wins. Just how has it evolved in your eyes, or is it, look, anytime LSU loses, I'm ticked off?
Yeah, I think the interest. So I'm not one that would ever downplay it. Like, I was excited when LSU was going to have that, that final week rivalry game that might bud and happen organically. Which, David, I mean, that's what happened. I mean, the best rivalry games are ones that do happen organically. LSU's had that with Florida over the years. Florida has rivals. They got Florida State, they got Georgia. But there's been so much on the line with LSU and Florida over the last 15 years, by and large, when they play, and you've had a lot of animus built up. I think that happened with LSU and A&M with the 7 overtime game and with just a lot that has been on the line between these two teams. The 2022 game when A&M was a 4-win football team and clipped LSU before they were going to the SEC championship. I think if nothing else, you it would be foolish for either team to sleep on that game. David, I've had this conversation a lot since A&M came in the league, and my feeling on the Aggies, same feeling with Texas and any school that has resources. Like, they're dangerous because they have resources, and if they're willing to commit the resources and ever get it right with the head coach, it can look like the run Texas had for a decade with Mac Brown, or any team, Ohio State when they throw resources, or what LSU's looked like for the last 2 decades. So you're never going to hear me downplay the importance of any SEC game, but certainly that one where there's a team that has shown they could beat you, and based on where that has been positioned on the schedule, it's a game that largely can dictate at the end of November what your postseason outlook looks like. We all have fun with the Aggie stuff, like everybody does. The Aggie jokes, y'all are all familiar with it, and they're fun to do. But what happens on the field, like, you got to respect it, and it's been that way, like you said, since 18 with that 7 overtime game.
It's interesting. I was on somebody's show last week, and they were asking me about the LSU rivalry, and I was like, guys, I think the players care, because before that A&M LSU game, you almost had fights on the field. Like, it was Shamar Turner, taking on everybody. So I think the players care about this one, and I think it's because of the back and forth. Look, they care about the Texas one for obvious reasons, but when it comes to recent history, that LSU series matters.
You think the thing with LSU too, David, is like, you got to remember, LSU does not have a geographic rival. Okay, so like no one is ever going to assume that LSU Texas A&M will supersede Texas A&M. It's just that, or Texas Oklahoma, or when LSU plays Bama, the Iron Bowl will always mean more. It's just the way it is. Even LSU Ole Miss has great history, but the Egg Bowl is always going to be more to those schools, and that's okay. But LSU is the only Power 5 in this state, and they don't have a geographic rival. So everything that happens with LSU as far as rivalries, it generally does happen organically based on the context of the game and the stakes that are on the line. I just mentioned, like, LSU Florida, when in 06, 7, 8, LSU and Florida, volleyed national championships in that run, and it was the primetime game on CBS every year. Like, that was arguably the biggest game in college football. It didn't mean that Florida State, or Florida Georgia didn't mean more, but it's just to those fans. But it's just about what is the context and what are the stakes of the game, and that's what I think A&M is certainly, since they've been in the league, chase that, trying to get to the point where they can get to Atlanta, win an SEC championship, and compete for a national championship. And as they continue that climb, and LSU fancies itself there as well, of course, any game like that that's played annually is going to have those stakes.
Talking to Matt Moscona here on TexAgs Live. Matt, how important is that opener for Brian Kelly this year? Look, I know there's a lot of football to be played after that, and you can win an SEC championship, you can go to the playoffs, you don't have to win that one, but just the perception of not winning the opening week game.
Man, all right, so I have a little bit of a different take here, because my objective is I want to see LSU win a national championship. And you can get in a playoff at 10-2. Dave, we saw Ohio State do that last year. People forget, as awesome as they were at the end of the season, I mean, they lost to a 500 Michigan team, and they lost at Oregon. Close game, but they lost 2 and got in. You just got to get in. For LSU, David, if I had to pick today, I wouldn't pick LSU to beat Clemson. I mean, night game on the road against a team with their 5th-year senior quarterback returning, and Dabo, who's won championships, and a talented roster who's in the playoff. Like, I think it'd be a good game, a close game, but I wouldn't pick LSU. If it was in Baton Rouge, I'd pick LSU. So I don't think you have to win. I think we just need to reframe, but it does eliminate your margin for error. Now, how are the fans going to take it if you lose a 6th straight season opener? Brother, David, I'll tell you, we're not going this year. Like, our radio group, we went to Vegas last year. We were in LA when LSU played UCLA in the Rose Bowl. Like, there's no appetite to go do another one of these big season openers to have LSU lose. So we're going to Nashville. That'll be a great trip when LSU plays Vanderbilt, and probably a game LSU win. Look, anytime you lose a game, there's going to be pressure on the coach. I just think for this year under Brian Kelly, the bigger deal, if we bring this conversation full circle, is where you started rightly, which is this is his most talented roster. If this team does not get to 10-2 and in the college football playoff, that is a cataclysmic failure. And I don't know David, that if this team can't get in the playoff, I don't know that Brian Kelly will get there, because after this year, you're losing Nussmeier. All of those transfers you just brought in, they're all gone. You'll have a massive year of turnover. Remember, aside from the transfers, you're getting Harold Perkins back off of injury. Whit Weeks is back. I mean, Whit Weeks had an All-America caliber season a year ago. He had more tackles last year than Devin White did in the year when Devin White won the Butkus. I mean, this is it, man. Like, this is the team that if you don't get minimum to 10-2 and in the playoff, I think you have the real honest question to say, is Brian Kelly the guy that's going to get there?
So if they go 9-3, is he on the hot seat?
It's a failure.
It's a failure, but is he on the hot seat for the next season?
Here's the big question. So, but for the contract, the answer would be yes. When Brian Kelly signed his deal with LSU, it's a 90% guarantee on the remainder of the deal. So I've said it forever. For 10 years, for better or worse, LSU and Brian Kelly are financially bound to each other. And that buyout would still be around in the $40 million range, maybe just north of that. I'd have to do the numbers. Like, LSU doesn't have the resources, David, like when A&M bought out Jimbo, they could do that. They could write that check 1,000,000 times over and never bat an eye. Not saying it's easy to write a $75 million check, but you can. LSU can't. Would they negotiate a buyout, spread it out over multiple years? Like, that's how it would have to be done. And I think those conversations would be very real for the first time in the Brian Kelly tenure. Like, this team has to get to the playoff, David. They just have to.
Does Marcus Freeman's success with Notre Dame at all kind of shine a different light? Or no, they're not in a conference. They kind of pick their way there. They're good. Does it even matter in the conversation?
Honestly, nobody here talks about Notre Dame. It's just not even a part of a conversation. And look, LSU tried to hire Marcus Freeman. And there was a time where it looked like he was hired until he kind of pivoted and joined Brian Kelly in South Bend. As Ed Ogeron in his final season came this close to hiring Freeman. So people have great respect for Marcus Freeman here, and I think it was remarkable what they did. But I think your point's right. It's a different conversation. They're not in a conference. It's a different schedule. It's out of sight, out of mind. I don't think people here are worried about what Notre Dame does or doesn't do. It's far more about getting this team into a playoff and back competing for a national championship.
So if you were to tier it up in the SEC, tier 1, couple of teams, maybe Georgia, Texas, tier 2, maybe Alabama, LSU, like where would you tier LSU? And what do you think about the top tier? Two-part question. Like, do you really buy Georgia this year with Gunnar Stockton? Do you buy Arch in Texas?
I don't. Do you?
No, I don't. I mean, I think they're going to be really good, but like, there's so many questions around the entire conference. Whoever's got the easiest schedule to me will make it through. And Billy reminded me Texas's schedule isn't as hard. I mean, isn't as easy as I thought it was last year because Ohio State on the road at Florida. I still think it's a very manageable SEC schedule.
And they have to go to Georgia. The way that I always look at a team going into the season is who has the fewest questions against the most manageable schedule. That's how I've always done it. Like, when I'm trying to project the season, I really liked Ole Miss last year because they returned everybody, including their fifth-year senior quarterback, and they had a schedule teed up. They got Georgia. Georgia was tough, but they got that game at home. Ole Miss going 9-3 last year was a disaster. I mean, you lost to Kentucky in their only league win. I mean, you gagged away a game at Florida where you had 3 possessions inside the red zone, and you 3 times went for it instead of kicking field goals, which any of those you would have won the game and been in a playoff. But that's how I kind of manage it. Like, I do understand Texas's roster. I understand the Arch conversation. But David, like, I have real questions about Arch. I mean, we've seen him start 2 games against G5 schools. Like, what's that look like over 12 SEC games? And maybe it's awesome. Maybe it's everything everybody thought or hoped it will be. I don't know if it will be. I have a giant question mark there for Texas. Georgia, I think Georgia looks fallible. I'm not sitting here telling you Georgia's going to lose 4 games. Kirby's great. He's still got a great roster. But, yeah, I think the Gunnar Stockton question is real. I mean, we just had the conversation about and by the way, like, I think Alabama is minimum 3 loss again in the regular season. Don't try to sell me Ty Simpson. Like we all saw what it's like. You do not lose the greatest coach ever without taking a step back. And I know I ranted about this all last year and had a lot of fun with Alabama people doing it. Picked them 9-3. They went 9-3. People thought it was crazy. Like, you don't get to lose Nick Saban and half of your roster and not miss a beat. And I'm not sold on Ty Simpson or anything they have. So I think this is as wide open a year. I don't mean for that to be like cliche to say, oh, it's a wide open year. I just don't think the powers that we always just take a pen and scribble in Georgia and Alabama, like, I think those teams are fallible. And I think whichever team has a quarterback that emerges this year to be an elite player, but Tennessee was a playoff team a year ago. They lose Nico. Like, whoever's quarterback emerges to give you elite level play are the teams that are going to be standing at the end in this league and make the playoff. And I would put LSU, because of Garrett Nussmeier, at or near the top of any conversation. After that, I'm not a big believer in Lenore Sellers. I get that physically he's great. I watched him a ton last year. He really struggles to throw the football. I pencil in Carolina as a 4-loss team this year. I don't know, David. I know I'm rambling a bit, and I apologize for that. You asked me for tiers. I don't know that I've tiered it out to have a great answer. I just think more than anything, there's just more ambiguity in the league, and which means I think it's ripe for fresh blood to step up in this 12-team playoff era and find their way in.
Matt, great stuff, brother. Appreciate your time, man. We'll do it again, all right?
All right. See you next month, man.
See you, man. Take care. Matt Moscona, LSU Insider. We'll see him in Georgia for SEC Media Days. Always enjoy talking to him. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with an update on Luke Kate because Luke is going to be playing some basketball later on tonight. He doesn't realize it, but the humans have spoken. And the bots, too. Right now, if your car was hit by that recent hailstorm, and I think there was a bad one this weekend in Dallas, so those of you listening on Sunday in the Metroplex, don't trust out-of-town pop-up tents. You should trust somebody in College Station and Bryan area, right, who's going to take great care of you. I am talking about our good friends at Classic Collision and Restoration who specialize in paintless dent repair for hail damage. And if you've gotten phone calls from those out-of-town pop-up tents, you can hang up on them. You don't even have to answer, right? Just let it go straight to voicemail and only reach out to people local that stand the test of time who have been in this market for a long, long time. We're talking about Classic Collision Restoration, 25 years of countless customers who have trusted them to bring their car back to showroom form. They can take care of all of your auto body repair needs, all of them, right? And nobody offers that same quality that they do. Don't get your car fixed, get it restored with the good people at Classic Collision and Restoration, Aggie owned and operated, Doug Leopold, class of 1993. Call them up, 979-779-8399, or online at classiccollisionandrestoration.com. That's classiccollisionandrestoration.com. Time for a little Ags in the Pros. Matthew Dawson and Luke Evangelist in studio. Guys, before we get to Ags in the Pros, a couple texts I want to read. No, we're not getting to your tryout yet. This one came in from a 979. Why no talk about the Spurs? We got Maverick talk, check. Rockets talk, check. Spurs, question mark. And my response to them is because I didn't think about them when we had Ryan Hollins on the show. They're last summer, I think they were an intriguing storyline because of Wemby.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're an intriguing storyline, but I asked about. We talked about Curry. We talked like, are the Spurs a thing right now? Like, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but what are they?
I'm on NBA Twitter pretty frequently, so I can tell you that for your Spurs update, Victor Wembanyama is training in Asia with monks. I don't know if you saw this. He actually shaved. This is not a joke.
This is not a joke.
He shaved his head, and he's finding a new peaceful inner circle and inner center to kind of elevate his
Good
game.
for him.
But
I like Wemby.
As far as the Spurs, they've got assets if they want to trade for Giannis. I don't know if they will, but Stephon Castle's a promising young prospect.
That would make a great. And also, I don't know if they're going to let you try out, but you have, like, we've exceeded what you said. You lied about what you said, first off. You said 25 comments. Well, we did better than that. You said 10 comments.
Okay, well, there's like 37 comments, and 35 of them are from David Nuño and Richard Zane.
Actually, I did one comment.
Okay, then 36 of them are from Richard
I think
Zane.
Richard did 8 comments. So you're still in, buddy.
So what are you wearing? I mean, that's a headband?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and preview the outfit here. But, we've actually got real news to get to, but fine, I guess I'll entertain you all for 30 seconds more. It's going to be headband. I'm shaving my head, going bald, Alex Caruso style. And I've got the baggy shorts that they used to wear back in the 80s when David was in college, and then probably whatever jersey they give me.
So in the 80s, they wore tight shorts, okay? In the 90s.
That is probably more your style.
In the 90s, they wore the baggy shorts.
Okay.
Okay. So I just want you to be factually correct.
Thank you for the history lesson.
Yeah. In fact, I've decided to cut off your mic. Matthew Dawson, start us off on Aggies in the Pros.
Well, I mean, if you're going to look at the UFL, look no further than the DC Defenders stomping the St. Louis Battlehawks in the semifinals to advance to the championship. Anthony Hines, is he leading the team in tackles? Yes, absolutely. 7 tackles, a fumble recovery. He's there. Fortunately, the Birmingham Stallions, hashtag the Fighting Jay Sternbergers, did not make it. They got stomped by the Michigan Panthers. So it'll be the Michigan Panthers versus the DC Defenders. Let's go DC Defenders. Let's go Anthony Hines. All right. And they're going to play Saturday at 7 p.m. Central. So let's go.
7 p.m.
Anthony Hines?
Central.
He's Central.
Dramatic
He's
pause.
looking to win his second ring. Wasn't he on the Rams his rookie year as like a practice squad player? This can be fact checked in 30 seconds, and I might have just said something totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure Anthony Hines was on that Rams team that won the Super Bowl.
That's why Nick is Googling it as we speak.
Awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and get into someone who has also a chance to win a ring, and that's Alex Caruso. You heard Ryan Hollins say that he's the most beloved superstar, or I guess just player in the league. Everybody loves him. As you all know, he just scored 20 points in Game 2, which tied a playoff career high that he set earlier this year. In all his other previous 49 playoff games before this season, he was averaging just 7.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. This year, he's all the way up to nearly 10 points per game with also 2.5 assists and 2.5 rebounds. He's got 10 double-digit scoring games in 18 playoff games this year. He scored 20 points twice. He's +5 or better in 11 of those 18 games. You talk about that impact going beyond the stat sheet. When he's on the court, good things happen for the Thunder. And he's had that +40 game in Game 7 against the Denver Nuggets when he was defending Nikola Jokic. So an unbelievable effort by Alex Caruso. I'm sure we're going to have more content coming out about him as he continues to look to win his second ring. And then also Quentin Jackson on the other side, looking to win his first. Game 3 is tomorrow night at 7:30.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Well, in the NFL, with the signing of Will Campbell and Jahdae Barron, that leaves only 5 NFL players drafted in the first round to not have signed their contract yet. Yes, that still includes Shamar Stewart. I feel like we're going to be waiting here a while, David, to hear that one.
Well, according to Charean, he's there. He's just not participating.
Oh, well. Give the guy his money. Fix the verbiage in the contract. Don't know what to tell the Bengals.
Luke?
I've got some softball for you. We can give a shout out to Trisha Ford's program.
Love Trisha Ford.
Obviously, Emily Kennedy received that golden ticket, meaning she was drafted to the Bandits in the Athletes Unlimited Softball League. Sorry, the AUSL. I messed up that abbreviation.
You think?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Anyways, you all know who Tori Vidalis is. She is also in that league. She was covering the Women's College World Series for ESPN and then immediately went into playing for her team, which is the Talons. And they're going to be playing each other this week. So if you want to watch some Aggie on Aggie softball crime, you can tune in on ESPN.
That's today.
Gentlemen, thank you very much, especially you, Matthew. Appreciate your time. All right, we'll hit a break. When we'll come back, Brian Hadad will talk about Mississippi State, another one of A&M's opponents this year. Insurance decisions shouldn't be made in 15 minutes or less. They should be, there should be time. There should be time taken to kind of really figure out your situation, cultivate a relationship so your situation, your specific one, is handled the right way. That's what they do at the Rollo Insurance Group. They build lasting relationships through education, helping you understand what you're buying and the why behind it. With expertise in everything from home to auto to business, you name it, they've got the specialty coverage. Their independent agents provide options tailored to your specific need. They take time to explain the policy details in plain language, ensuring you're never left wondering about your covers. This educational approach empowers you to make informed decisions about protecting your family, your home, and your business. Many of their clients discover better protection at competitive rates simply because they finally understand their options. You can experience the difference through their 60-plus offices in the great state of Texas, and they're all over the country. Visit rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. That's rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs, or call them up, 888-44-ROLLO. That's 888-44-ROLLO. We are back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going back to the Buppy's Catering Hotline as we continue breaking down teams that A&M is going to play here in the 2025 season. Brian Hadad joining us, Mississippi State Insider, Sports Talk Mississippi, Super Talk, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 o'clock. Brian, what's up, buddy?
Talk some football, man. I am about baseballed out these past couple of weeks.
Tell me about it, man. So, all right, let's talk about the quarterback situation at Mississippi State, Blake Shapen. How healthy is he? How does that change what Mississippi State does this year? Because I thought their quarterback last year was pretty darn good, even though the team didn't win many games.
Yeah, I was just on another interview and making the comment that Shapen should change his last name to Shapen if he's healthy, because if he can stay healthy in the Jeff Lebby offense, I think he can put up some big numbers. He's got the arm, he's got the mobility. I had to sit down with him about a few weeks ago and talk to him. He talks about changing the mentality of, I don't have to dive and claw for every yard. I got to be smarter, and sometimes I got to go out of bounds, and we can get it on the next play and try to stay healthy. But I feel like when the whistle blows, that's a tough mentality if you've been playing one way your whole career to change midway through. So I'm interested to see how that goes. State's got some experience at the backup in Luke Kromenhoek, the transfer from Florida State. He played for the Seminoles some last year. They have a true freshman that everybody is already in love with, Camario Taylor, that fans are going to be chomping at the bit to see him pretty early. Big kid. I mean, we're going to make a lot of dollar store Cam Newton references about him before we see him on the field. But if Shapen's healthy in this offense, I think he can put up some good numbers. It's just that nagging injury question with him because he's never given you a full season.
How much grace do you think Jeff Lebby gets, considering he's still very early in this regime? Different quarterback, he got injured, Michael Van Buren leaves. It's year 2, but they only won 2 games. Like, does he have grace for a couple years, or nah, it's life in the SEC?
Yeah, that's the question that everybody's asking me and asking people around Mississippi State with Lebby. State, since Mullen left, that's 7-8 years ago, State's had 5 head coaches in football. Moorhead, 2 years, fired. Leach, 3 years, then he tragically passes away. Arnett just wasn't ready for the big job, so he doesn't even get a full season. And now you bring in Lebby in a situation where, Mike Leach, God rest his soul, not the most excited recruiter in the world. So the team he left, Mississippi State, it was always going to be a chore to rebuild after him because nobody does what he did. And so to do it so quickly out of nowhere, and then for Arnett to fail the way that he did, he put Lebby in a really bad spot, and it showed up last year 2-10. So there's that side of things where you say, well, yeah, State could really use some continuity. But gosh, if they go 2-10, 3-9 again, which is a very real possibility with this team and this roster, it becomes sort of like a Chad Morris situation at Arkansas. Can you really go on like that if you go 2-10, 2-10? You're on a 16. Well, you're on at that point like a 21-game SEC losing streak. That's a really tough pill to swallow for Mississippi State fans. So let's just say it's in everybody's best interest for Lebby to show a lot of improvement this year. At 4-8, if they're competitive in the 8 losses, I think he comes back, no questions asked. But anything lower than that, and there's going to be some people wondering if they should make a move.
Well, navigate the schedule for me, because they do have a tough non-conference game the second week of the season, but they're hosting Arizona State. Just kind of navigate through it and where you see some potential wins, some losses.
That's the thing. You look at this schedule, it's brutal. I mean, I know we all live in the SEC and everybody has a tough schedule, but for State, they're hosting 4 playoff teams and Ole Miss, who was on the periphery of the playoff a season ago. If they can find a way to win that Arizona State game, they have a better than above average chance to be 4-0 when they play Tennessee. And that would be something then. You're talking about a big game atmosphere in Starkville with Tennessee coming in, and who knows what could happen. That Arizona State game is really the key to the whole season, in my opinion. So week 2, Starkville under the lights, that's one. If they can win it, it changes a lot of perceptions. But if they lose, people are going to be asking questions. And after last year, when you lose to a team like Toledo at home, you can't take there's no gimme games outside of your FCS opponent. So that game with Northern Illinois, I mean, I seem to remember Northern Illinois going to Notre Dame last year and finding a way to win. They can certainly come to Starkville. State starts the year on the road at Southern Mississippi. That will be an all-out blitz Super Bowl game for the Golden Eagles, trying to knock off their in-state rival. And then at A&M, at Florida, at Arkansas, at Missouri, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, and Ole Miss at home. like I said, this team could be a lot better, playing a lot better than they played a season ago, and still be a 3-9, 4-8 football team.
Brian, that A&M game, yeah, A&M won by 10, and they were comfortably leading in the first half. But it was a closer game than I think A&M expected. And remind me, the Texas game at times felt close too, right? Am I getting that game correct?
Yeah, and Texas scored late in that game to really push it away. But State was competitive in that game, especially you think about it. That was Van Buren's first start, so a true freshman. I think Texas was number 1 in the nation at the time. They were starting Arch Manning in that game, but State made it more interesting than maybe people thought they would. And the Georgia game was the same way. State only lost that game by 10. State's defense last year was maybe the worst I've ever seen in the SEC. I've brought this stat up a bunch of times, David, and it never fails to boggle my mind. State was 16th in scoring defense last year. LSU was 15th. The gap between State and LSU was the same gap between LSU and Ole Miss, who was first. It was just that's how bad State was defensively. They gave up 35 points per game. You can't beat anybody doing that. So if State can just jump up to like 70th total defense this year, which is still not good, but if you could make that kind of jump from 126 to 70, well, now we're talking about maybe being a bowl team. But that's going to be the big question mark, because I just look at that defense and I don't see any difference makers. There's not a single guy outside of Isaac Smith that you would look at as a real potential all-SEC guy, and that's not going to get it done in the SEC. And you have an inexperienced coordinator who I was really surprised didn't lose his job this offseason because of how bad they were. But Levy told me that he valued continuity. He wanted to give everybody a shot at building on what they did last year.
Kevin Coleman Jr. gone with Missouri, and obviously Mario Craver with Texas A&M. Big losses. I do want you to break the Mario Craver's game from what you've seen,
Sure.
and we're super excited about him. But just tell me about the receiving core, because they're going to have a new look.
Very new look. I mean, not anybody back that made an impact last year. You look at the guys they brought in, not a lot of production. There's a lot of potential. You know, Aiden Williams, Brennan Thompson from Oklahoma, Aiden Williams from Ole Miss, Anthony Evans from Georgia. These were highly recruited guys, and that were just down the depth chart at their schools. And, you know, I talked to Levy several times, and every time it was about his receivers, he had total confidence in this group. So he believes in those guys. And the thing about Levy's offense is this: if you look at it through the years, one guy is going to catch 70, 80 passes for 800, 900 yards. It just happens literally every season. He's the coach. It happened last year at Mississippi State with Kevin Coleman. I think State was so bad, people don't realize how good Coleman's numbers were. He caught 80 passes last year. So he was really good. Craver's a good football player. You know, he gives you that deep threat. He can do a lot of things after the catch. He's not the biggest receiver, so you know you're not going to throw the ball up and let him out-muscle anybody, but he can get behind defenses. When he's playing his best, he is a real vertical threat, and I'm interested to see what he looks like in that Texas A&M offense.
Well, he shined on the film when he played A&M. He was really good, so we're excited about that. Talk to us about the offensive line at Mississippi State.
Yeah, and you know, the portal has had to do its work there for Mississippi State. It's not a lot of continuity from last season. And, you know, Mississippi State changed offensive line coaches after the early signing day. They brought in Phil Lodeholt from Colorado, who had coached with Levy previously at Ole Miss in Central Florida and Oklahoma. And he kind of, in the second transfer portal window, went about trying to reshape that room and brought in a couple of guys, Blake Steen from Virginia, Jenkins, the big kid. I think his nickname is Flapjack, which that's a great nickname for an offensive lineman, but he's a big 350-pound interior offensive lineman. He went out and got new guys, and so Mississippi State's offensive line is going to look a lot different than it did in the spring because they've just got some new faces. Levy was really adamant throughout the spring, like, we've got to get better in that room. We're not good enough in that room. And so that's why they went out and tried to reshape it a little bit in the second portal window. And if you watch the spring game, you see why. They had trouble protecting against State's defensive line, which I don't think is going to be a top group in the conference this year. So I don't know. I have a lot of questions about that group. They're going to have to figure it out in fall camp because they didn't have the reps in the spring. But I do think they upgraded the talent in that room from the end of spring practice to now because of the guys they were able to bring in late.
So something pops up there. All right, the offensive line struggle, defensive line struggles. I think last year only 10 sacks as a team, right?
I'm surprised it's that high. I'll be totally honest with you. There was another. State had a guy get a sack against Eastern Kentucky in the first game, Calvin Dinkins. He got injured a few plays after that and didn't play the rest of the year. He was leading the team in sacks like 8-9 weeks into the season. State could not get any pressure on the quarterback last year. It was an absolute embarrassment on that defensive line. And you think about State through the years with Fletcher Cox and Chris Jones and Jeff Simmons and Montez Sweat. I mean, NFL defensive linemen, all pro defensive linemen. State has taken a massive step back there at that position. And they went out in the portal this year. They got a few guys that they like. Will Whitson from Coastal Carolina, Red Hibbler from North Carolina State, Navian Sanders from Northern Illinois. But these are not guys that I just look at and say they're difference makers. That's a guy that I can pencil in for 8 or 9 sacks this year. That's a guy who is going to control the interior of the defensive line and command a double team and free other guys up. I like what State has at linebacker. I like what they have at safety. Defensive line is a big question mark, and then cornerback is a potential train wreck. They weren't able to get anybody in. They may be counting on a guy who played the NAIA football a season ago. Looks good. Now he's a big kid, big athletic kid, but we talk about a massive jump. There are probably some high schools in Texas playing a higher caliber of football than you play at the NAIA level. And I don't know how many true freshmen could come in and start right away in the SEC in that situation. So I just don't have a lot of faith in. I don't know if it comes through in my commentary or not, but I don't have a lot of faith in this defense. I just don't know how much better they're going to be this year.
Brian, great stuff, man. Thanks so much. We'll see you at SEC Media Days here in about, 5-6 weeks?
Yes, sir. We'll see you there.
See you, man. Brian Hadad. All right, we'll hit a break here. Actually, a month now because it's already June the 10th, so a month away. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with the final segment. It's TexAgs Live. All right. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Final couple of minutes of the program. Tomorrow on the show, we'll do Recruiting Country. We will also have Peter Burns on the show from the SEC Network. Looking forward to chatting with Peter, PB, and we'll figure out how we get him on, if it's on Zoom or on the phone. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. A question was posed that I don't know if we can tackle it completely, but I can give some quick thoughts. I'm sure Luke can say something.
The text says, assuming we adopt a 9-conference SEC schedule in the coming years and a P4 opponent, would TexAgs prefer a Big 12 rival that is Tech or Baylor versus a random Big 10 team?
I want revolving door. Okay, I don't want to have Baylor every year. I mean, there's a part of that would be fun, sure. But I would prefer, like, I'd love to go to Michigan, right? I'd love to go to Ohio State. Love to go to Oregon. UCLA. No, I don't want to bring up UCLA. That's a bad memory. USC. Like, I would love for it to alternate. Arizona State from the Big 12. Like, yes, I don't want it to be just one opponent. I understand that, but I think it would be cool to, like, every team in this new playoff world have to play a team from the other one of the other conferences, and it can rotate year by year. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see it rotate because I think it might get a little stale if it's like Baylor 1 year, Tech, then Baylor, then Tech. I want to go to Michigan. I want to go to Ohio State, all these venues that I got to see as a kid, but I would love to actually watch a team that I root for play there.
Is there a party going on back there? I see people throwing football, people yelling,
it's
leaving the show with
trying
like.
To do your job, and it's just
which intern just left? There's 40 seconds left.
Interns left. What? You don't think it's important to transcribe the rewind or what we have to say? All right, fine, be that way.
I mean, bro, like they're not going to class. Oh my gosh.
They're going to tan, David. Go to tan and watch Love Island. Everybody shame them.
Go see their hairdresser. Whatever, bros. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Live. Hey, Kay. KK.
Luke is going to be at basketball tryouts later today. We'll tweet updates.
Is it official? Are you in?
Yeah, it looks like I'm in. Kay is going to be doing the tweeting. Oh my gosh, we're up against it. I'm sorry.
Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll see you mañana.